But I think the development of full artificial intelligence will spell the end of the human race.
It's a flying object, and we don't know what it is. I would hope somebody's checking it out.
With the rockets or whatever, but incredibly fast, opposite direction. They were too fast to be an airplane.
I'm glad the Pentagon is looking at this, because if it poses a threat, I want them on top of it.
Well, the craft generates its own gravitational field.
So you said there's lights in the sky?
The internet has become the command center for criminals and terrorists.
911, what's your emergency? I need help, please help me!
Aliens won't let it happen. You know, that's what we're instructed to say.
Roswell, Area 51. Alien kept deep under the ground.
1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0.
Doesn't have your best interest in mind. The government is self-serving. You're here for a reason. You're listening to Troubled Minds Radio. Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness. Good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, Twitter, Twitch, D-Live, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And of course, 88.4 FM, Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight, well, had a hard time with this one. I'm not exactly sure. Well, I guess inspiration is one of those funny and fickle things. Let's see where this goes. Sometimes the ones that make you wonder about these ideas, maybe there's a reason for it. Anyway, we're talking tonight the silent ones, entities that observe but never interact. And funny enough, Herschel said in the chat, we're talking about lurkers tonight. Shout out lurkers. Got a lot of lurkers that listen to the show and rarely interact with the chat or whatever, right? There you go with the lurkers. But as you know, I've been messing with the AI stuff recently, the new tools as they keep dropping. And it is interesting to sort of take an idea like this. This is an old idea, the Watchers. It fits into many, of course, mythological frameworks, folklore, the Bible even, the Book of Enoch has like an entire section about the Watchers. There's some, the apocryphal stuff. There's a lot to this. And of course, there's the scientific aspect of it, the observer effect, right? Like the collapse of the wave function and that type of stuff. It's weird. It's one of those things that probably, let's say, our ancestral intuition knows quite a lot about. But what does that mean? And what are these things, I guess, really becomes the question as the larger part of this conversation. But I want to point this out. So I dug this out, this actual write-up here that's as part of this. And so the new AI, they say, is 120, 130 IQ, smart, something to that effect. And it's able to do these deeper research, right, the deep dives. And so I got this, again, the idea, the silent ones, entities that observe but never interact, which, of course, the Watchers. We've done shows like this in the past. Who will watch the Watchers, right? Well, it's even more strange because when you're able to drop this in and get sort of like a deep research scholarly article as part of it, it's fascinating because it draws a bunch of sources. It's reading a bunch of different things, and then it kind of brings you back a blurb, and it's actually pretty damn good when you're talking about wild ideas like we do. Which, as you know, most of the use case I would have for this would be wild stuff, would be weird things, would be just strange ideas, and that's exactly the point. But it'll also do some other stuff. I tried some actual science with this last night a little bit. And anyway, so off the AI here. But if you're interested in what that looks like, it is here. I did drop another one last night in the Discord from the previous show, sort of a full AI elaboration, a deep dive as it is, this deep research model, which is it's good. It's good. I'll start with that, actually. Let's go straight to the deep research. But basically, as you guys know, the weird thing about this is that when we talk about entities, clearly there's it depends on what you believe, okay? As usual. So it's a good time right now to actually drop all the disclaimers. It depends on what you believe in. And some people will say, come on, Mike, there are no non-human entities. Fine, that's cool, you win. You don't get an argument from me. The point of doing this is to really kind of look at this in the folklore and mythology and wonder why there's sort of this human resonant idea of these things, even outside of cultural boundaries and temporal spaces, which is the bizarre part, which is the most most fascinating part about all of this stuff to me, is that, it seems like our ancient, again, we talk about this quite a lot, but that epigenetic intuition of our ancestors seem to really be dialed into a lot of things, and maybe even a lot of things that are spooky. Let's call them spooky. But so once again, all the disclaimers apply as part of these conversations. There's no truth to be found here. If you're here for truth, you're in the wrong place. We're just kind of looking at things a little bit differently and trying to maybe not go deep, but go wide, and maybe consider the things that fit or don't fit, and just kind of talk about those possibilities. So that's the whole gimmick here. That's exactly what we do, because I think it's fascinating as hell, like I said, and two, I think not a lot of people do it this way. And of course, we are taking your calls a little bit later. If you want to be part of the show, that will be at 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Okay, so now on to the watchers here. Now, here's right how this thing started, and I thought it was pretty good. For centuries, folklore and reports have described mysterious silent ones, entities that watch humanity from the shadows, never engaging directly. What or who are these silent observers? In this investigative overview, we explore references to such watchers in ancient mythologies, examine scientific and psychological explanations for feeling an unseen gaze, delve into modern UFO lore and declassified projects, uncover occult warnings and prophecies, and finally consider theories and speculation about their true nature. The picture that emerges blends historical accounts, scientific insight, and eerie possibilities. So there you go. That's the intro, right? Sounds very scholarly, sounds very thorough, sounds very actually like it's interested in the idea, sounds even, kind of human if you're, a little bit of a more utilitarian writer and you just give me the facts and only the facts, ma'am. It's so far so good. But as you know, like when we talk about these entities, now back to the entities for a moment here, is that there's I like to call this the Santa Claus effect. Okay. And we have discussed this in the past, of course, that, Santa is making a list. He's checking it twice. And I know it's not the holiday season, so hang tight anyway. We'll get back to that in December. But Santa's always watching because he knows who to bring the toys to, right? The good kids, the bad kids, all the rest of that stuff. So I guess you could argue metaphysically, Santa Claus is one of these sort of silent watchers, the silent ones, okay, that kind of does his thing all year long, and then he's a little different, maybe a little bit of Fey realm sort of magic coming from him, but you get the idea. There's something strange with this that not only resonates in ancient times, but also in modern times with some of the folklore that we deal with, not just with children and seasons and all the rest of the things we talk about, but it feels like there's something to this. And so as we start, before we take a quick break here and get a word from our sponsor, the first question I have from you guys is, do you ever get that feeling that you are being watched when there's nobody watching? You ever got that? And why is the feeling so terrifying? That's the bizarre part of this to me, is because it seems innocuous if somebody's just watching, right? It's part of what humans do. Sometimes they watch, sometimes they interact, sometimes they disengage, sometimes whatever, right? Sometimes they avert their gaze, whatever, and blush, whatever it is, right? But strangely, this is certainly one of those human sensations. We talk about feeling somebody staring in the back of your head, which makes no sense. Again, Rupert Sheldrake and the morphic resonance and that stuff. But what about this, where there's the feeling of being watched by something, but there's nobody around? Anyway, that's where we'll start tonight. That's the first question I have for you guys. And yeah, if the fog is watching you, maybe. I don't know. Like I said, I don't really have answers. You know me, I'm not an answers guy. I'm more of a questions guy. But with that, we're going to be right back. One minute break. A quick word from our sponsor. In this case, that's Human Inspiration. Thanks for bearing with me with the tech uses when we started. It seems to have corrected itself. Fantastic. Be right back. More Troubled Minds in exactly 1 minute. In a world increasingly shaped by AI, human inspiration remains the beating heart of creativity. Alien Skin by Tremble, a hauntingly beautiful piano ballad, reminds us that while algorithms can mimic art, the raw, unfiltered emotions of human experience are irreplaceable. So here I sit, locked in my room again. Written and composed by Jesse Ian in collaboration with Todd Smith, this progressive masterpiece delves into the depths of internalized grief and the silent toll of artistic compromise. As AI reshapes our reality, Alien Skin stands as a testament to the timeless power of human emotion and the complex beauty that only true artists can evoke. Experience the haunting beauty of Alien Skin by Tremble and support human inspiration. Available now on iTunes. And welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Let us continue, shall we? Okay, so now back to the writer, because I think it's good. So think about this as like a college paper regarding something like this. But anyway, so throughout history, many cultures have spoken of beings that monitor humankind without intervening. These range from ancient angels to esoteric guardians. In apocryphal texts like the Book of Enoch, the Watchers are a group of angels sent to observe and guide early humans. According to legends, some Watchers became infatuated with human women and broke their silent vigil, defecting to illicitly instruct mankind and procreate among them, giving rise, of course, to the giant Nephilim. We all know the tale. Shout out Illicit in the chat. Their story shows how beings originally dispatched only to watch had their judgment clouded by desire, leading to chaos and their eventual punishment. These watchers are depicted as towering overseers, reminiscent of the sons of God, mentioned in Genesis, whose sole task was observation until temptation led them astray. In Egyptian mythology, the gods themselves kept watch over human deeds. The moon god Thoth was revered as a divine scribe recording the deeds of both gods and men. In the Hall of Judgment, Thoth observes the weighing of souls and dutifully records the outcome without prejudice. This implies a role as a cosmic observer, a being who watches and notes every act, remaining impartial. Some modern mystics link this to the idea of Akashic records. We've talked about that quite a bit recently as well. A kind of universal library of every event. In esoteric lore, there are even references to guardians or keepers of these Akashic records who observe and catalog human actions much as Thoth did in Egyptian belief. This is straight from the thing, like a one-shot paper written by, again, Deep Research OpenAI. I did it, it generated it checked 20 sources, and in 5 or 6 minutes, bam, cranked this out. And to be honest, it's pretty damn good right out of the gate. I was surprised. And it's very thorough, and it goes through a bunch of this stuff. So we'll get into some of these other traditions, but it's strange to me. Like I said, when you talk about entities, we got James in here, great. I figured you'd want to pop in here and talk about this. But when you talk about entities, right, especially let's say in the paranormal aspect of an entity, there are a lot. And most of them are defined by actually being interacting in some way, okay, like the poltergeists or whatever, and knocking things down, or actually appearing visually momentarily or making sounds. And this is sort of the most notable thing about these entities, a paranormal spirit, or however you want to call it. I mean, maybe even a dimensional trickster if you want to go that route. I don't know. Like I said, when you scale reality into multiple frameworks, then this could be anything, or maybe it's just the simulation playing a trick on us, right? Or of course, it always could just be a trick in our mind as part of all that. But that whole idea of being watched and not interacted with is even more creepy, right? It's almost like you kind of wanted to punch you instead. It's like, well, why are you here? Like, if you can see it, or you can hear it, or you can sense it, even more creepy if you can't see it or anything, but you can sense something there. Has anybody ever had this happen? Love to hear your actual accounts of that, because that's pretty wild. But anyway, so back to this. So many spiritual traditions speak of invisible guardian entities that watch over individuals or even full nations. In Christianity and Islam, guardian angels and Kiraman Katibin, I don't know how to say that, or translated as honorable recorders, are said to accompany each person, observing their every action, like a guardian angel, right? In Theosophy, mention is made of exalted beings called silent watchers. Yes, now we're cooking. These are described as highly advanced spirits who watch and guard through the age-long cycles in what seems to be a divine silence. Now that's the creepy part, right? Why? One theosophical text describes a silent watcher as a vigilant presence who remains at their post from the beginning to the end of the life cycle. Essentially, a spirit sentinel who observes humanity's progress without direct interference. While ancient lore attributes our sense of being watched to actual entities, modern science offers alternative explanations. Neurology, psychology, and physics shine light on how the feeling of an unseen observer might arise naturally, which we'll get to momentarily here. But it is pretty thorough. Like I said, I was impressed out of the gate, just kind of putting some stuff in here and watching it do. I had to do all manner of stuff, actual scientific stuff. I was putting it through the paces a bit last night, and this is good. I mean, I didn't have to manually go write this stuff and copy or paste anything over, or brainstorm. And I mean, it was just like, boom, there's the idea. Here's your article. Go get them, Mike. Yeah. So anyway, just a test here, just a test case to kind of read some of this to you guys and see that the much hyped AGI might be closer than we think. Okay, that's part of it. But yeah, sorry for starting late and the weird tech stuff, but thank you, because now we're going to have nice audio because the board has been reset. But James, actually, if you want to pop in here early, if you got anything, I'm not sure. I know I'm sneaking up on you, but there's tons of stuff for me to get to. Of course, I got a whole laundry list of things, but this is right down your alley as, of course, the paranormal expert at Troubled Minds. Welcome to the joint, my man. How you feeling tonight? And what do you got to add as we go?
Yeah, I'm. Other than my eyes, I'm okay. I'm just going through the usual stuff. Happens every so often, but this is a great topic because I'm not as familiar with all the historical or biblical or all the ancient texts. I'm not as familiar with that aspect of it, the idea of these watchers. But just from so many accounts I've read of people that have had experiences, that is something that happens sometimes. You don't have anything else happening except for either you get the sense of being watched or you see something or someone that seems to be more than the regular person that is just watching. And you can get feelings from it. This is the other weird part. I've heard of accounts where people get creeped out by it. I've had other accounts where people feel better with whatever is there, even though they're not doing anything actively that you can see. They still get these different feelings from in each given situation. That the feelings can be different from as far as what people get from the entity or whatever it is there watching them.
Yeah, sort of that guardian angel effect, which again, as usual, right, when we talk about all this stuff, and shout out Matzel. Is Matzel out there? Maybe. If he's not out there, he mentioned when we were doing that dream show, we were talking about the super dream. And he mentioned, well, what would like a super nightmare be? Like sort of flip it on its head a little bit. And this fits tonight perfectly well as you're describing here, that some people seem to be comforted by a feeling of being close to an invisible entity or maybe a consciousness and that guardian angel aspect. But then also you flip it on its head and there's some people who are absolutely terrified because you cannot quantify what this is, but you feel that sort of essence of being watched, which is incredibly wild. With regard to the watching stuff and just the silent sentinel bit, isn't it mostly true, James, that the ghosts, the paranormal realm that we talk about, that most people are interested in, is sort of when there's that crossover of a physical thing or a noise or a this or a that or static or something, right? There's some sort of actual human interaction that makes it compelling. But remove all that and just the intuition aspect of being watched without any of that stuff. It seems like that isn't really, run up and down the whole paranormal index as far as I know. What do you know about it?
Yeah, the sense of being watched, it's there for some, but not all experiences or encounters. I do think that in some cases, people and whatever else is out there do accidentally run into each other, encounter each other. But then there are others where I think there is some kind of intent there. And yeah, there can be whoever or whatever is watching can have effects on the environment at times, whether that's by sort of being giving off light or even being a shadow that takes in all the light from around it, sounds. Even if someone is not watching you, you may hear them moving around a room as they are doing that. Some kind of footsteps, some kind of things like that. Furniture, sounds of someone sitting in a chair, just any number of things like that. Those are common. Static is also sort of that sense of someone being there. There's a sense of they can see static around the figure, or the figure looks like it's made of static. There's that as well. So yeah, there's a lot of variables to all of this as usual, but yeah, it's really wild how this can go across from ghosts, let's say, to other beings, whether it's aliens or cryptids or whatever. This is something that happens sometimes where someone will see or sense something and it'll be there and it may move around, but it won't move toward anyone. It'll just be moving around, keeping its eyes on whatever's going on.
Yeah, and again, the perpetual observer that's there for eternity. It's a scary thought. But I mean, okay, but here's the deal regarding this. Now, if there are dimensions, and what I think there's a new science article out that said they just found that photons react in 37 dimensions or something, right? So, some like a 5D chess just became ridiculous. However you want to look at it, right? But I mean, if you look at that as a sort of these scaled dimensions and that idea of maybe. You would expect entities that were alive and had agency and were, advanced technologically to not just be able to conquer their own, but then maybe explore others. And so maybe that's part of it, is you can kind of it's easy to see, but it's difficult to interact. I don't know. There's a lot of ways to look at this, of course, but basically what I want to know tonight from you guys, if you got tales on this or experiences with it, that's the most compelling stuff to me. Like they say, right, that anecdotes aren't data. Okay, fine, that's true. However, when you get enough of it and you get enough of these same actual experiences, I don't know. I think you have one foot in both worlds and can talk about this in a lot of different ways, which is fantastic. But yeah, we got Joe in Florida coming up. You are next, my friend. Got a minute left, James. Anything to add to that? You're welcome to stay, of course. I figured this one would be right down your alley. Glad you're feeling a little better, and welcome back. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I can give an example of this sort of feeling of being watched. There's this one time when my dad had just was moving into a house near me, and I volunteered to stay in the house while he and another family went to get things and then bring them back. And while they were gone, the only time this happened in this house, only time anything weird happened there, while I was sitting in the living room, of course there's no TV yet, nothing going on there yet, I got the sense of someone being in the entrance to the living room, just looking at me, watching me, and sort of, it was like, oh, people are here. Like it was sort of surprised. And it sort of was there for a second. It slowly sort of approached that entrance and then was looking at me, and then it backed off and it was gone. Never had anything weird happen in the house besides that.
That's weird. Almost like it was in the wrong place. It's like, well, I'll see myself out.
Or I didn't know anyone was supposed to be there or that was going to be there. Yeah.
Yeah. Wild stuff. I love it. There you go. If you guys have actual experience or accounts of that, I'd love to hear it. But of course, theories play. That's why we do this, to talk about these ideas together. Why do you think there are entities that are supposedly watching us? Is this eternal? Is this one of those, I don't know, never-ending cycles of the observer effect from elsewhere? Because I can imagine quite a great many things. Love to hear your thoughts on this. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Open up the phone lines. Be right back. We got Joe in Florida, more with James and your calls as well. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, Twitter, Twitch, DLive, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And, of course, 88.4 FM Auckland, New Zealand on the Underground Media Network. Tonight, what if unseen eyes have been watching us since the dawn of time? Never interfering, never speaking, only observing. Could these silent entities be cosmic archivists, reality's custodians, or something far more unsettling? If their purpose is to wait, then the real question is, what happens when their waiting ends? Of course, because that becomes the final question of all things. What happens when the waiting ends? Yes, indeed. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. If you want to be part of the conversation, we are taking your calls at 702-957-1037, and love to hear it. James, we gave you just a little bit of a pocket there. If you got anything to add, go for it, and then we'll go to Joe and the Robert after that.
No, just not too much, except just glad to be here, and looking forward to all the other calls. So that's it for now.
Right on. You are the best. You know him, you love him. James Salcedo, the paranormal expert of Troubled Minds. He's going to be sitting in, but go check it out. Go to troubledminds.org, click the friends link. It'll populate there, and then just go down and says follow James. Click that, please, and go follow him in all the places. And thank you again for all the help, as always, the glue of the show. What do you guys know about this? These silent watchers, right? It's an oldie but a goodie, but there's a lot of different ways to look at it, and especially when you can kind of feed it into these new AI systems that are supposedly writing, college-level papers. That's kind of interesting on weird stuff, Troubled Mind style stuff. Anyway, love to hear your thoughts. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show just like this. Let's go to Joe in Florida. What's up, brother? Long time no talk. Hope you're well tonight. What's going on? Go right ahead. Good evening. Are you there?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, better. Much better.
Okay. I must have had a button on because I haven't used the microphone in a while. Fun topic. Hope everybody's doing well. Can't wait to hear Robert. I haven't heard him in a while. James, how you doing? Well, I'm thinking you could be an atheist and not believe in anything, but I'm hoping that all of us here listening have had some kind of experience where you're like, what's going on? I could tell you stories from the funeral home, stories which you've heard already. As far as an observer, I think I have this feeling that we're being observed, maybe from a distance as a whole around the planet. The reason why I say that is because we can be observed every day. When I look at orbs, when those orbs pop out, whatever you want to call it, UFOs, UAPs, orbs, whatever that is, I tend to think they show up. And I know in my family what I've said it before a million times on the show. When I have great stress, typically when somebody dies, it's definitely not a coincidence when somebody dies, and I'll be out in the backyard that night, and I'll just happen to look up and see a shooting star. And I would always take that as a signal. I would always take that as a signal that they're okay, that we're going to be okay, that it's just underneath the veil, or just underneath another dimension. Being in the house, in this house, yeah. When we first moved in, I had some weird things. My wife didn't. My mom lives with us. She had some weird things here in the house. Not that I think it was family. I just think that there might have been some energy that was sticking around because apparently before we knew about it, something happened in this house to somebody that we don't know if they overdosed or if they hung themselves. I don't know. Not for saying that the house is haunted in any shape or form, but, sometimes you kind of get weird. You could just say that it's the light, that you're walking into. Like the front living room of the house is not always well lit just because the way the house was built in the 50s, But, part of me hopes that if we are being watched, maybe it's the people that came before us. 6 degrees of separation, maybe we all have known each other. So we've seen this in reincarnation, that people come back maybe within the same family or within the same group of people, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Hang tight just a second. Just for people that don't know, so Joe's been a good friend for a long time. Shout out Kelly was our first caller that ever called back. Joe was definitely the second, and he's been a good friend for years. But for those that don't know, he's actually been a funeral director for as long as I've known him. And so he deals with, we call it that mortal transaction, and does this, basically on a daily basis. So just so you know, when you, just to fill in some context on what he's talking about, but go right ahead. What else you got?
So, and like I've said before, the funeral home that I'm at now, I really don't have the weirdness that I had at the corporate places that I worked. And I think I've said that before. I tend to choke that up too. Manifesting energy and negative energy, because when you come to a corporate place, they're trying to hose you. And I have to sleep at night. So I constantly was always in a fight or flight mode. And I think that if there's something around in the local vicinity with the family, weird stuff would happen. I mean, it would make your hair stand on end. I've had stuff happen with my family. But in the funeral home that I'm at now, I get very little of that. However, sometimes when I'm making an arrangement with the family, the lights might flicker, something might fall. You get little straight, and people will look at that and they'll think, I'm like, well, you don't have to believe in anything, but you got to believe in something. I don't know. That could be your sign. And I don't judge people. They just, something might happen in the funeral, or there might be a bird on somebody's car. I don't know, but those are the little things. At the other place that I worked at, I've had my hair stand up on end. I've literally heard a heavy door close. Like an emergency door, you push the handle on the door and it opens up like a door to a school or a church. We would have doors like that in the funeral home. Literally, me and a friend of mine that she worked there, we literally heard the door open and slam shut middle of the day, and we looked down the hallway and there was nobody there, and that was kind of strange, But yeah, I mean, I think there's people watching, and I think that maybe they interact somehow. We see that on TV shows and sci-fi. We can look at Tesla being, Nikola Tesla being pushed, maybe having dreams. Was he going into the wavelength? Was there somebody watching him? Was there somebody every once in a while kind of pushing us along? Like you alluded to in the beginning in the Bible. And then I look at these orbs and these things that are coming around, and maybe they're not from another dimension. Maybe they live here. And they are observing us just to make sure that we don't supposedly blow ourselves up. We've talked about that a million times, if they might interact or, come in,
Absolutely.
Or,
go ahead.
Or people that maybe have drank too much, and we know that, how did we get home? How did we escape that? Oh my God, a split second later. Was it just us picking up on things? Or was something whispering in our ear? And maybe it was kind of ourselves. If there's a quantum matching pair, whatever you want to call about it, whatever you want to call it. Maybe, like I said, Matrix, that's another thing, Matrix theory. Maybe we're sitting there playing our avatar here. And then maybe we kind of cheat a little bit, kind of like when you're playing pinball, you tilt the machine. Like, hey, don't make a left today, make a right. I don't know. It's a good subject, but in a way, I think we could come full circle. It just depends on belief. Again, if you're an atheist, I don't know how this would apply to you, but sometimes when we die, if the energy just goes somewhere else, maybe it's just over in another dimension that we really can't break into.
Yeah.
Also, like the movie Ghost, or Poltergeist, like you said.
Or Matrix, as you described too. I mean, because look, even if you are an atheist, it doesn't matter. Like, that's why these conversations play with me. Like I said, I try and be as agnostic and always as possible, as just a descriptor so people know that I'm not coming at this from any particular angle and why this stuff fascinates me. It's not just sort of folklore and mythology and experiences told throughout the millennia here. It's also stuff that continues to happen. So it does make me go, what's going on with this? Now, I got a question for you regarding the weirdness. Does it make some sense that in the Book of Enoch, where the Watchers were supposed to be exactly that, but they fell into temptation and eventually became sort of the Promethean firebringers of technology and even teaching people how to create war and kill each other and all the rest of this. But they actually moved into the temptation of procreating with the mortals. Now, take that metaphorically and then move it to a dimensional space. If there are Watchers from who knows where, you decide where that is, and they're waiting, are they sitting there waiting and trying to not succumb to temptation? And what does that mean when they do? Do we get alien abduction experiences? Do we get, right, hauntings? What happens when they can't contain themselves anymore, metaphorically? I don't know. It was a wild thing I was thinking about when we were talking about there. But yeah, Fire Stuff, what's your take there?
You could say that the Immaculate Conception, maybe in my mind could be an example of that if you believe in that. The gods playing with us, maybe, because theoretically I think that all of the angels or Watchers or whatever were probably maybe jealous because supposedly if we were created with free will and they had to follow orders, which they broke. But all of that, which I wrote in a little note here, which I should have brought up in the beginning, all of these stories to me, these organized stories, just reek of control and leadership. And the other way it could be used as an excuse for our bad behavior. However, I do think there's abductions going on. And maybe the appearances changed over time. Maybe back then they appeared as giants because they had to put fear in people and down here so that people didn't understand and wouldn't question. Because let's face it, we never questioned authority. None of us questioned authority. For a lot, look what it got us. It got us the Dark Ages. It's got us all kinds of things, but then you have the Enlightenment. And people started to use reason and science. But a lot of our stories are probably based out of fear and control. But still getting back to, I do think abductions happen, in this modern day. I do think you maybe have gone from giants to fairies to greys. The owls are not what they seem, and maybe those were the first hybrids that we don't know. Maybe we were like the Garden of Eden, totally ignorant. And, kind of mixing stories here, but when we were given the fruit, or when these people came down, and we had original sin or Pandora's box, now we have to deal with that. Now we have to deal with that. Ignorance is bliss, right? But it's a curse to question. It's a curse for us to know that we could be boiling in a pot and we can't do much about it. That's just a curse, right? Would you like to know that? I mean, I don't know. I mean, right? Look at us recently. Look at us here in this show, right? Trying to contribute, trying to help each other out, trying to maybe think a little bit positive when we know just outside the door, our neighbors could be, all Agent Smiths. You could bring up a subject and everybody turns into it. Everybody could be fine, but the minute you bring up a certain subject, everybody becomes Agent Smith. So I'm rambling at this point in time. Let somebody else go.
No, good stuff. I appreciate you very much. Thanks for staying up late with us, Joe in Florida. Always a pleasure. Welcome back, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a great night.
Have a good night.
Thanks a lot. You too. There you go, Joe. Joe. Again, such a good friend. Like I said, he called us one night. He was at the hospital with his son, and he just found us randomly on I think it was Facebook back then we were streaming on, and he just gave us a call, and he's been a friend ever since. Just kind of talking about these ideas and considering things again, sort of checking outside of your own dogmas, whatever that is, again, politically or otherwise, and considering these ideas in the full scope of what it means to be human. It's been a wild journey. We've met a lot of great people, and to many more. Cheers to that. Fantastic stuff. Appreciate the call, Joe. Anything to add to that, James? We got the Robert on the line. We'll go to him momentarily here, but if you got anything to add, go right ahead.
Great call from Joe. Always glad to hear from him. The idea of, I've heard accounts of people who have said, I saw or I sensed this presence and it just stayed there and didn't do anything until this happened or that happened. And then it made an action to, usually a lot of times anyway, to help the person out in a situation. So that is really something that stuck out to me. And yeah, I can totally, I agree with him on the idea of you bring up certain topics around people that are maybe you don't know so well, or you do, but they're not into it. And they can just go quiet all of a sudden. And it's like, oh, okay. So you all don't want to hear about that. All right, got it. And it is a weird thing, and it's not, and I'm not talking about people that you don't like or that don't like you. Anybody, any group of people, that can happen anytime.
Yeah, definitely the stigma. I don't bring up ghosts at work, just as an FYI. I think, interestingly enough, I think probably UFOs are a more acceptable conversation than the paranormal and ghosts are still to this day, which is weird.
Yeah, which is weird. And cryptids, Bigfoot. I mean, that's super popular now too.
Yeah. Here we go. Strap in. Think the hyper acceleration is coming. Hyper reality. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show just like this. The Robert, what's up, my man? Welcome to the joint. How are you tonight? And go right ahead.
Oh, I'm fine. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. No complaints out of me. What's on your mind?
Well, I guess this is tied in with with the topic tonight. When my wife passed on, all right, 2 days after she passed on, I found a small, frail white feather on the sofa. And there's nothing in this whole house that could show a feather. And there it was. And I told my daughter, I said, I think your mother left that. All right? And then this past Friday, I was over at my father-in-law's helping him install a new desktop computer. And just as I'm wrapping up, getting ready to go, there was a similar white feather on his desk. All right, and I had been working at that desk for several hours, and it was never there then, and there it was. And why I bring this up is I've heard, or may have read somewhere back over the years about one of the ways that a deceased loved one lets people know that they're still hanging around is they find a white feather. Somewhere where you wouldn't expect to find one, as a message.
Yeah, I love that. Of course, I'm not the guy to answer the question, as you know, but it does seem strange to me that there are, as usual, these meaningful coincidences, and one, right, out of place, and then another sitting there for a very long time and don't even recognize it until you're about to leave. It's almost as if, as usual, right, not just the universe is trying to speak to us, but maybe loved ones from afar. Yeah, well said. I love all that.
Oh, I'm absolutely convinced that my wife has been hanging around. Right? She's certainly keeping an eye on me. She kept an eye on me when she was alive. But I just it's beyond coincidental to me, because it's one thing to find a feather like that 2 days after a passing, but find almost the exact same one while working like I was working over there across town on my father-in-law's computer. That ups the odds. That makes it very close to not so much coincidental.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, the meaningful coincidence certainly plays. So 100%. And, Carl Jung discussed that as those signs, the universe definitely trying to tell us something, and even suggesting to the point that when you recognize those things, you're on the path you should be, and kind of, they will accelerate or whatnot. But yeah, fire stuff. Regarding the Watchers, what you got? Or go ahead. Take it wherever you like.
Watchers. The Watchers are rather entertaining to me. All right? I don't think they're as spooky as some people think. I think the Watchers are basically our audience. That we're that basically we're incarnated into this world, or this reality, much like actors on a stage, like Shakespeare used to say. And I think that this whole reality is one big stage, and the watchers are the spectators sitting in the seats of the auditorium.
Just waiting for us to do exactly what? Is it, are we here for their amusement? Is that what it is?
Entertain them.
Entertain them, okay.
Entertain them. All right? It's like if you have one heck of a life, all right? If you have whatever kind of, life gives you a 10, all right? Like in a play, all right? If you get a tremendous performance in a play and you get a standing ovation, all right, that's what I think it's all about. Because I think that on the other side it can get boring, and we incarnate to not only entertain ourselves but entertain them.
Okay, I dig it. Now, when I asked Joe, I brought up that fact that the original Watchers, again, Enoch's Watchers, were eventually, they succumbed to that temptation and mated with mortals and brought them, the forbidden knowledge and all the rest of the things. Do you think there is maybe that interaction that can happen, and the Watchers themselves are trying to hold themselves back?
The only way that could have happened, the only way it could have happened is if the Watchers incarnated themselves and became flesh.
Okay, I'm with you. I'm trying to imagine what that looks like. I don't know.
Well, it would look like it could look like anything. It could look like an alien. It could whatever the Watchers, whatever organic life in this reality. All right, they could incarnate into. All right, and I would imagine they would incarnate into something that was at least humanoid. And that's how that's where the temptation was to stay where they're at. Instead, they didn't stay where they're at. They incarnated, and they shouldn't have done it. They were forbidden from doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Which again, the begets of the Bible begat the giants, and so the Nephilim, as we're told. So, as Eric said in the chat too, that back in those days there were giants. So yeah, I don't know. Again, as usual, it just depends on the what you believe, the cosmologies, and all the rest of it. But yeah, fire stuff. What else we got regarding this? Do you think that these things are mostly neutral, malevolent, benevolent? What's your take there?
Oh yeah. They're not just watching us, and enjoying the play. The idea that they don't get involved, I don't believe that's the case. I think that if you're going, if you're going to, something's going to happen and it's not supposed to happen, they may step in there and prevent something from happening in their own way. But I think that when we pass on, right, I think that we also wind up becoming watchers ourselves. All right, we watch over our past loved ones, the ones we left. We may go into join the rest of the watchers in the auditorium and watch the rest of the play. Because just because one character is killed off doesn't mean the rest of them aren't still doing it. And the play has not ended yet.
Yeah, well said. Well said.
I wrote a story along those lines, and that was creation. You've read that in my book.
I sure have.
And that particular story is precisely the way I see the Watchers. I see the whole idea, the whole concept of incarnation and Watchers and the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, good stuff. Which, if you don't know, we got about a minute left if you got anything to add, but I'm going to tell everybody about your book right now so they can go read that too.
Okay, well, you're going to break, and I just want to talk about the feather, and maybe people should look around, when shortly after your loved one passes on, and see if they've left a sign.
Right on.
Because I think a lot of times they do. All right, Mike, good night.
Appreciate the call.
I'll continue to watch the program.
Okay.
Bye.
Have a great night. That's the Robert. You know him, you love him. Affectionately, the Robert is what his writing group calls him. He's a mentor, not just to me, but to many of us. And of course, as you would expect, he's a brilliant author. Go check out his book. Link's going to be right here in the description, troubledminds.org. Click on friends, scroll on down just a little bit. It'll say Robert's book, I believe is what it says there. Oh, did I change it to the Robert? Oh, I did. Scroll down to the bottom and it says The Robert. I'll get my big head out of the way. Click on that. You'll get his book. It's on Amazon. Please check that out. Let's help each other. It is a fantastic read. Full disclosure, he sent me a couple copies. I read it. It's good. He doesn't pay me to say that. Fire stuff. Appreciate the call. We're talking the Watchers tonight. And again, not just that, but of course that temptation. What happens when a Watcher breaks temptation? And is it biblical, as we've been discussing tonight? And how weird does this get? Love to hear your thoughts. More with James. We got Shane coming up, Jorge, and your calls as well. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. Easy as that. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being part of this. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Be right back. More on the way. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, X, Twitch, D Live, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And of course, 88.4 FM Auckland, New Zealand on the Underground Media Network. Tonight, what if unseen eyes have been watching us since the dawn of time? Never interfering, never speaking, only observing. Could these silent entities be cosmic archivists, reality's custodians, or something far more unsettling? If their purpose is to wait, then the real question is, what happens when the waiting ends? Love to hear your thoughts. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Anything to add to that, James? And we'll go to some calls here.
Two things real fast. Great call from Robert. Also, regarding Joe's call, I didn't get to say before, we have another synchronicity with your show and my shows, because on my next shows with the Arcane Observer, we're going to talk about historical abductions of people and what or who might be behind those, whether it's Fae or other aliens or other beings throughout history. So we haven't even done those shows yet, but that is the plan, and here that topic is tonight as well.
Oh, right on. Sweet. We're bouncing syncs off of each other in the cosmic space here. HH2, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I see that, Joey. Thank you. Appreciate that. I'm familiar with it. I've never read it. I've heard it's a banger and everybody should read that. I'm slacking. But also, by the way, I've never seen Beetlejuice 1 or 2. So take that, James. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show just like this. Thanks for being patient, friends. Let's go to Shane, the blind psychonaut. What's going on, brother? You are on Troubled Minds when you get in here. Welcome to the joint. How are you, sir? And go right ahead.
I'm good. How are you and James doing tonight?
Pretty good. I can speak for myself. James?
Doing okay.
Well, that's awesome. First thing, if I get off topic, just nudge me back on topic. Just wanted to put that out there. Cool?
Perfect. I got your back.
So, this one is, like all of them, weird, but I think there's a lot of evidence of some type of being or something, if you could say, like watching us over our shoulders. I mean, you can even go with the Anunnaki, the Greys. I mean, there's cave paintings where they are depicted, like what they look like, Greys, or even the Nazca lines. From what I remember, there's at least one that looks like a Grey. So there's something that's in the psyche of people from as far as we can depict, like written history until now, that something similar looking is happening. Now, I think in today's society, especially with all like the technology, the constant bombardment of radio waves, TikTok, all of that clouds our mind, where some of us are still able to have that. You know, when you're in the room, you're like, oh, what the heck? You know, you have that weird feeling, your hair stands on the back of your head. Or if you have like a cat that like randomly looks in the corner, you're like, yo, stop that. Like, don't do that.
Yeah, you're creeping me out, bro. Stop it. Totally.
Yeah, they're just like staring. You're like, yo, yeah, it's just bananas. You're like, what are you doing? You're freaking me out. And it's always like late at night too, right?
Yeah, or oddly sort of out of place in the moment. It's incredibly weird. I got a thing for you too, but go ahead. What else you got?
Oh, but yeah, I think as our ancestors, they didn't, from what we know or what we think, they didn't have the type of technology we do, like with the radio waves, which I feel they had went down in more of a spiritual realm. But with us, and I think a lot of it's like purposely done, where it clouds our mind. A lot of us have that fog, you know, where you can't perceive other things beyond what is in front of you, what you can touch, smell. Now, I've heard, I don't know how true it is, that we have way more than 5 senses, but I think right now we're only limited, or many of us are limited to the 5 until either you open it up, like intentionally with meditation, or a lot of people with near-death experience seems to, like, there's some pathways in the brain that seem to open up, or even people who dabbled into like psychedelic plants seem to open new pathways which allow us to perceive more than what's in our 3D realm. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense. Regarding the 5 senses, it is definitely a thing. So the 5 senses they sort of teach us are the basics. There's a ton more that kind of don't get as much play as they should, but for sure, 100%. And beyond that, so what's VPXM says the 5 physical senses, and so of course there's intuition. There's all kinds of other things again, which I want to bring up to you. There's that sort of again the more Rupert Sheldrake's idea of the morphic resonance, and this idea of being watched, right? Like we know physically in the 3D realm. This has been proven time and again that if you're being watched and you don't know the entity's there, you can still, and we're talking sometimes it's an animal, sometimes it's another person, whatever it is, it's actually all physical, but you can feel them staring into the back of your skull when there's nothing really that suggests, let's say they're completely silent, completely quiet, not moving, not anything. And you still recognize it, right? It's that predator-prey interaction as part of that, the sense, right? And so if that's the case, just a predator-prey aspect, it makes me wonder about the silent ones here. And so what, like when we get a weird feeling, right? Is it when their temptation, sort of their desire for us somehow is bubbling hot or something? I don't know. Just a that's what I wanted to kind of point out to you as a well, what if this? Oh my gosh.
Well, what could be, like, if you want to look at like a nefarious aspect of it, which I've also heard, you know, a certain entity is more of a evil entity, feeds off of our fear. And that could be them, you know, wanting a meal, you know, like, oh, I need some McDonald's or whatever. And, oh, this guy looks good, you know, and then it's their energy, like you said, bubbling up, and our energies cross paths. And even though you can't see them with your eyes, but there's that intuition, or even you can feel them even physically, you know, that static. Because I've heard even with, and I could be wrong, James, on this, where some people say they have that static electricity feeling when there's ghosts around, or the spider web. I don't know, is that right? Like, you've heard that, right? Or like totally off?
Yeah, no, I've heard of that as well. I haven't really experienced it directly, but there's plenty of reports of that. Yep.
So yeah, that could be, you know, energy. I feel energy crossing. So now I think any being that's intelligent, just like humans, Some are good, some are bad, some are in the middle. Now, there's a lot of, since we really don't know what we're dealing with, it's hard to determine what those entities are. So I think a lot of them could be good, trying to, guide you, like, or tell you, you shouldn't go out tonight because you could have a car crash, because I've had some friends that had that, oh, I don't feel like getting out. And everybody else is like, oh, you wimp, but something bad happens that night. And, and then you think about it, like, oh, man, I should have listened. Well, maybe it's something that's telling them that, hey, I can't really interfere, but I'm going to make you feel uncomfortable when you think about this certain activity. But I also think is people misinterpret a lot of these beings, where I hear, which I'm not denying their experiences, but could it be that where they think it's a demonic or evil entity, it's a good entity, but they just don't understand it? And humans first, I feel, which there's a lot of evidence of it, is basically shoot first, ask questions later, where you get that fight or you know what I'm trying to say.
I got you. Fight
and so
fight or flight mechanism. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, and a lot of humans, there's a split between running or fighting, and I think especially if you're by yourself, you get scared. So once you associate someone with fear, that's what it's going to be. Now, I could be completely wrong, but I've never had experiences like a demonic feeling. I've had, especially since losing my eyesight, I've had a lot of like, oh shoot, something in the room, and then like I'll walk around with my arms out trying to feel like, oh, okay, now I feel stupid, like trying to search for something. But yeah, that's so yeah, I think watchers have been around. I just don't, especially in today's society that we're clouded. You could chalk it up to what a lot of people say is our pineal gland is calcified, or the food we're eating clouds a lot of our judgment and brain fog. Now, if we clean that up, could that change a lot of experiences? I definitely feel that, because I don't watch TV. I watch, I can only watch, but I listen to YouTube podcasts, but I stay away from cable TV, mainstream stuff. And I think a lot clearer, even though I might not sound like it sometimes, but that's helped a lot. So that's one of my suggestions for people is lighten up on the tech.
Well said, all that. And no, you are crystal clear all the time. There's no problems at all. Just to let you know. I know it is difficult, right? Because you're here, and there's a little bit of stress factor. I'm not going to throw you under the bus or be a jerk here. That's not my game. But with a lot of people listening, there is sort of that stress factor that kind of tongue ties your tongue as part of it. So yeah, don't even sweat it, bro. It took me like 3 years to get over it myself, and then the only way I got over it, by the way, was just failing so many times. I was like, oh well, we failed all the ways possible, so we're good now. Don't even care anymore. What else you got?
That's funny, because I was just going to make a comment about what you said. I actually was thinking the other day, I was like, you know what? Since I can't see anybody, I'd probably be pretty good at public speaking now, because I can't see anybody. I just talk. I was thinking about that.
There you go. Yeah, you can just, you know how they say one of the tricks to public speaking is to imagine everybody in the room is naked, and then you don't feel so silly. Well, now you can just imagine they're all aliens, naked aliens, or, whatever, and it's all fine. Yeah. It is an interesting dynamic, right? Sort of the psychology of being judged by sort of speaking off the cuff. No, but you're very good at it. Great stuff, brother. What else you got?
Well, yeah. And I think the speaker, I forget, I'm really bad with names, sorry, but the caller before me, maybe it was the one before him, but anyways, but this said it might be us that's the watchers, which I feel it's a blend of us. You can even think of it as if you want to get weird, like what if it's, if you want to dive into the multi-dimension, what if it's like a higher self? And then we're perceiving our higher self. Because, I mean, in the dream realm, you supposedly can ask your subconscious, if you become lucid, to talk to your higher self or a being, which I think that's the realm, which we've talked about I don't know how many times when on here, that when we pass, when we dream, other entities, even interdimensional beings, that's the dream realm is the realm where a lot of everybody kicks it. Everybody hangs out, and in our flesh bodies, we have to hit a certain brain state, like the theta or delta, to allow us to put our so-called antenna to receive that realm. But yeah, I think it's a mixture. The Watchers, like I said, they've been here. There's evidence of it in history, the paintings, just even the creativity that humans have had in the past. If you look at our architecture compared to even in like the 1910s, look like the Chrysler Building. I think we were connecting to something then. How beautiful that building is, the Art Deco type of architect compared to our boring, crappy architect now, a box. Woo!
Yeah, exactly.
Today,
that's a yeah.
Go ahead.
Just as part of that, there's a lot of divine inspiration, I think, missing from let's say the modern ways, and it's not unnoticed. Like, this is a thing you can literally quantify and be like, I mean, the engineering's more structurally sound, sort of, and the rest of that, but you can literally say, well, look, this was art and this is a box. So I mean, I guess we'll see. We got calls we got to get to. So if you got more, you're welcome to stay and finish out the segment, or you tell me. We're
no, that's good. That's good. I'm glad I got on. I felt like I speak clearer tonight. And James, I'll get back to your email. I just saw it. Blind people problems don't always catch everything.
No problem.
You're the best. Appreciate you, Shane. Do go check out Shane's YouTube channel. It is a link will be in the description as everybody else here. And again, if you should be on this list, it's an in list, not an out list. troubledminds.org/friends. Just scroll down. It says follow Shane right there. Click it. Go check out his YouTube channel. He's making great content. I've checked out some of it, and he's good. He's very, very good. What do you guys know about this? We're talking about the Watchers, and how does it resonate with you? And what about that predator-prey aspect? You think there's something to that? 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Let's go to Jorge on Discord. What's up, brother? How are you? Just pop on in here, and you're on Troubled Minds, and go right ahead. Yeah, that's one of the ones that kind of got me as we were talking about this. Like, maybe that predator-prey thing is when it sort of pops up and you notice it. Sorry, just unmute, and you're right on. Go ahead, Jorge. What's going on, brother? Welcome to the joint.
Man, I lower my hand. I'm doing good, brother. How are you?
Good. No complaints. No complaints out of me. I mean, I could complain, but right, who's listening? Well, I mean, a lot of people, but whatever. I won't complain.
Well, listen.
Go right ahead.
I don't know. I was thinking a lot about this topic, but man, there's so many ways in which I can take this. I've been studying like this type of thing all my life, bro. Like different types of religions and alien stuff. That's why I listen to your show. Because they're like into all that weird stuff. But I don't know. I keep changing all the time, but there seems to be like a common thread amongst many religions that we are kind of limited. Like the whole, I don't know, one of the callers said about angels is like, I don't think that angels are like another world spirits. I think the angels are kind of like helpers. That's kind of like the Greek word, like the Greek words describe them, the angelos. They're kind of messengers, which sometimes in the literature kind of mixes with like the planets. And so, I don't know. I think that we're limited. We're blinded for a reason. I think that our five senses are very limiting. We are basically in a prison. And yeah, there are watchers. But I think they're kind of like not angels that kind of help out, but more like like, like to those guys that, what is that word? Like the guys that take care of prisoners in jail. What are they called?
Like wardens or something like
wardens. I think those the spirits that kind of like watch us. I wouldn't call them angels, but I'll call them more like wardens. Seriously, think that we're in a prison. Like even our senses, are limiting, and it's like we can only hear what we know, what's like here and now, but we cannot hear beyond that. Like sometimes, for example, like when you listen to the thing you were talking about, the radio. There are certain like radio signals that we cannot hear, but yet there's information there, and we don't really quite know what's in that information. And also the same thing with like light. Sometimes we take pictures of like fireworks. The time that the picture takes the firework is just way more beautiful sometimes than when we can perceive. So even time is limiting.
Yeah, exactly.
Light. Yeah, it's like light is limiting, sound is limiting, even smell is limiting. Like dogs can smell things that we cannot smell. It's like we certainly live in a very limited universe, and so I'm pretty sure that whoever made these worlds can perceive that and is aware of all of that. As to what they are or who they are, it's up to anybody's guess. Maybe the angel thing is correct, but I certainly don't think it's angels.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think it's like, I certainly think it's like. Sorry, you were going to say something?
No, go ahead and finish.
No, you go ahead.
So basically, we're dealing with a limited spectrum of reality. Given the full spectrum of reality itself, all the things, surely we would be able to see some or sense some other stuff, right? Because again, I call it the meat suit experience. Being human is that human prism. Is that we can only filter so much information through us as part of the human experience. But what if we were, again, a demigod or a god or, greater than human, however you want to define that, AGI or artificial superintelligence, whatever it is, and able to have these filters out, collecting all the data all the time. I wonder if this type of stuff like that the observer effect and these silent ones and the watchers would suddenly become like a resonant energy that you could actually detect as they sort of maybe moved into your space or maybe turn their attention or gaze towards you. You know what I mean? Something like that, some sort of invisible level of energy that's kind of interested in particular things at particular times. That just came to mind. And I wanted to point out too, I was thinking about the way signals could work as you were talking there. And we know that quantum entanglement, right? Spooky action at a distance, as Albert Einstein said. What is it like if there's all this entanglement happening all the time with all manner of things, right? You can't really sort of, other than the entanglement itself, have the direct connection. But certainly, at least in my mind, there's going to be some also mechanism that's maybe sort of sloshing the cosmic soup a little bit. And maybe that's the intuition that we're sort of detecting as part of this conversation. Maybe the watchers are manifesting in that way, a very scientific way that we detect as something that we cannot actually perceive entirely. You see what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that because, it's like the Mr. What is that called? What do you call him? The blind psychonaut? What do you call him?
Yeah, Shane. That's Shane. Yep.
Yeah, Shane. He was saying, he's like in Carlos Castaneda, for example, he was able to perceive all the alternate realities with mescaline, or they call it mescalito. But there are other ways, like I meditate every day, and every day I get to see things that are pretty cool, and it's like we just takes years of like meditation for me to get there. It's like I don't use any substances for me to get there. It's just a lot of practice. But it's like stuff that I always wanted to see. I like now I get to see, or maybe I'm just imagining things, but it's pretty awesome stuff. So it's like you're into another times and other places and some pretty awesome people that lived, in some pretty crazy times. So it's like the gate was there, but sometimes we need to like learn how to open the doors. So yeah, more like the Jim Morrison, the kind of like doors of perception type of thing.
Yeah, we've done several shows on the doors of perception. That was a wild one, the first original one we did on that. But yeah, that's exactly the point, right? Is there's I call them reality tunnels, all the rest of that stuff. It's all an interesting human artifact, but also like I wonder how much we're leaving off the table by not recognizing sort of the things that our intuition might pick up on, but there's signals that might be out there. Fire stuff, brother. We got about 30 seconds left. If you got anything else.
No, I'm good, brother. You have a good night. I wish everybody a good night. Keep on rocking. Keep up the fight, and yeah. So you guys have a great night.
Appreciate the call. You were the best. Go give Jorge a follow. Links in the description down below. troubledminds.org/friends. Scroll down. It says follow Jorge. Just click the link. Again, this is not an in club, or it is an in club. It's not an out club. You are welcome to be on this list if you help us in any way. I'll try and help you as well. troubledminds.org/friends. Follow Jorge. Please do that. We're talking to Watchers tonight. What is with this? And is there, something a little more off the beaten path that might make some more sense? Be right back. More Troubled Minds coming up. We got, looks like Eric, we got Kelly, we got more from James and your calls as well. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, Twitter, X, Twitch, D-Live, Kick, and all the places, all the things. I'm trying to erase Twitter from my head, and I can't do it. I'm like, I want to say X, Twitch, D-Live, Kick, and Twitter just keeps coming out of my mouth. Anyway, tonight we're talking about the Watchers, okay? The Watchers themselves. Everybody gets that feeling like you're being watched. You don't know if it's real, if it's a physical thing, if it's a physical sensation, sort of like, again, Rupert Sheldrake and his idea of the morphic resonance and the morphic field, or again, that predator-prey instinct when you know you're being watched, let's say, Jurassic Park from the jungle type of thing. Or, it could be as simple as just your house cat kind of staring at you and you don't know they're there, kind of outside or something. Like that type of stuff definitely plays. It's been scientifically proven that we have this weird ability to recognize when we're being stalked, right? Stalked. I mean, stared at in the back of our head. I don't know. Do we have eyes in the back of our head? Anyway, you get the idea, right? So there's that, the physical aspect of it. But then beyond that, is there a more metaphysical space for this? And how weird does it get? Because, of course, the human experience is wide and varied and interesting and complicated, and that's why we talk about this. What are we missing? What kind of ideas kind of play into this, and what do you know about it? Have you ever experienced this where you were certain you were alone in a room or something, but you're being watched by something? And if so, what is it? James, anything to add? We'll go to Eric and fire stuff. You guys are the best.
Great calls from everyone. I did want to comment and sort of confirm one thing that Shane mentioned about when people have experiences and they get that sense that they're being watched or they see something that is watching them. Fear is a natural reaction. It's understandable. But I do think that can lead to maybe misidentification or confusion or sort of a false impression of whatever it might be they're watching. I think it can lead to sort of mistaking either a neutral or a good force or entity that's there for being bad. And that's one of the major things I try to focus on in all my shows is that not all paranormal, not all unexplained things are evil. And of course, popular mainstream entertainment media has flipped that around completely. They like to say everything is evil, everything is demons. And I completely disagree with that. So great calls from everyone, and thank you for having me on the show again.
You're the best. Imagine this, right? Imagine just for a second, a quick 30-second thought experiment. Whatever this is guardian angels. They are guardian angels in some capacity, but our sort of superstition and spookiness of it has run them off somehow, right? Like we do these rituals to get rid of it or break the moment or whatever because of exactly what James is talking about. What do you guys know about this? We're talking the Watchers, and how deep does it get? How weird does it get? And is it physical? Is it non-physical? Is it a mix of all the things? And love to hear what you think. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Let's go to Eric in Florida. What's up, brother? Welcome to The Joint. How are you tonight? And go right ahead.
I am doing well, thank you. I was just thinking about the original Watcher of Thoth back in ancient Egypt. And when a person would die and they would get mummified, one of the things that would be removed would be the heart, would be put in a canopic jar. And what would be left would be the Ka. And the Ka would be what would be going on that journey, trying its best to get into the Duat, which is the Egyptian heaven. And one of the milestones along the way is entering into the heart of justice, the Hall of Justice, wherein Thoth sets in judgment. And the idea is that throughout your life, Thoth has had a stable of scribes that have watched your deeds and have set down what those deeds were. And he gets a compilation list of this when you go into the Hall of Justice. And when he reads all of this, he takes the heart of whoever the Ka is, whatever the heart that they have, in a canopic jar, and he puts it on a scale. And he weighs that against the feather of justice or the feather of truth. And below the scales is Matak, which is a crocodile kind of a deity that will gobble your heart up if your heart is heavy with sin and misdeeds and that sort of thing. If it's not heavy with sin and misdeeds, then it's lighter than the feather, and you're able to cross on over into the Duat, which is like your final gateway into heaven. And so just thinking about that, conceptually, is that kind of situation has always been with us, that people are watching, the gods are watching, people are scribing your deeds in that sort of a situation. At least that's the earliest example I know of direct, that comes from what's known as the Book of the Dead, but was actually called the Book of the Day of Coming Forth back in ancient Egypt, and was a series of papyri and hieroglyphs and scrolls. But I always considered the deity Hika to be kind of more of the watcher than anyone else in that pantheon. Hika was a deity that was the deity of medicine and magic, and was what empowered the gods to make godly decrees, and was a deity that came into existence on his own due to the flux of magic. So I always kind of considered Hika to be a watcher deity in that sense.
And that's Egyptian also? How do you spell that?
Heka. It's a compound word. Like the Ka is what's left over when you die in the ancient Egyptian religion, and the deity's last two letters are Ka, and that's supposed to be representative of the spirit of humans. And the word for magic in ancient Egypt is Hika. So basically, Hika is the underlying mechanism to their whole pantheon that allows the deities to do divine things and to decree things, and the things actually happen. And they're also the reason why rituals work in ancient Egypt. Like when you get mummified, part of that process is inscribing spells with Hika that allows you to have things like passwords to get past certain gateways and stuff as you're going up to the Hall of Justice. So it's like an underlying magical energy that was personified as a deity at some point and was a part of their pantheon. It's represented by a wick with hieroglyphs, or like two hands that are face up and palm face up, or in a statue the hands come out of the head. It's kind of weird, but once you see it, you'll know.
Okay, sweet. I don't know if you know, but I've been trying to learn hieroglyphs myself. I got the starter book and been dabbling here and there, so that's why I asked. I want to know exactly how to spell it, and exactly if you can describe the cartouche.
Yeah, usually
I want to know. That's all.
Yeah,
that's
the
awesome.
cartouche is usually two hands that are like arms that kind of make a U. Like if you held your arms up with the elbows bent, like you're holding your hands up when the police say hold them up, that kind of thing. And a wick is usually in between those arms, and then that's in the oval cartouche situation.
Sweet, I love that. Regarding so that right there is one of the oldest tales there. Do you think there is something a little more scientific than this? I mean, because as you know me, I like to look at things 10 or 20 different ways as part of these conversations, and consider, which not necessarily is most plausible, but what are we leaving off the table as part of these conversations? Do you think there is a resonant energy or that observer effect? I know scientifically that, they say even sort of in sociology and things like this, where or is it anthropology, whichever it is, you cannot observe a habitat, a 3D on Earth habitat, throw the metaphysics away, without somehow interacting with it, even with a camera or something, right? You put the camera there, it smells like humans, or it smells like whatever. This doesn't smell like something natural. Whatever it is, you're also going to be able to interact with it inadvertently through sensation, through intuition, through what the fear mechanism, through whatever that habitat sort of absorbs from the observer effect. Do you think it is something like that in a cosmic sense, or what's your take regarding it? Do you think it is woo, or a little more scientific than that?
I think you could find a scientific angle if you really wanted to. I think you could take Heisenberg's uncertainty principle about quantum states and say that if we lived in a simulation, like some people have proposed, that the observation by those that put us in a simulation state might indeed affect that simulation state. Just like an observer effect on a more dimensional level. So I think it's possible if you wanted to look at it that way.
Fair enough. Yeah. As usual, right? Different ways to look at these things. I love the is it I always say Thoth. It's Thoth. Is that how we say that?
I mean, I say Thoth. I'm sure ancient Egypt said it probably a little differently, but I'm happy with Thoth, or I'm not real picky about the names.
As long as we know what we're talking about. What else you got regarding this? A lot of angles here, a lot of ways to kind of tackle this. What about that fear mechanism? And as I brought up earlier, sort of that predator-prey instinct. Do you think that maybe metaphysically, this is what we're experiencing when we get that I'm being watched feeling, and there's nobody actually there, nobody physically possible to be there? You think that's what's going on? Like the archons sort of licking their chops because they're like, this one looks sweet and ripe.
Yeah. No, certainly there's always that. We're always looking over our shoulders, right? We're always like, wow, somebody might be looking at me, and sometimes there's not, and sometimes they are. You feel really justified when they are, because they are. But
because you look sweet and ripe.
Exactly. It could be that you don't know why they're looking at you. Even more motives in modern society.
Yeah, absolutely. What else you got? As usual, we can take this anywhere you like. Just trying to pepper some seed ideas in for you. But if you got stuff, go ahead.
I just was thinking too, because you'd ask a couple of people about the Jude 1:6 and in the Book of Enoch. Talking about the angels who basically, what did they do? What did it say? They chose to give up their first estate. They chose to give up their first estate. So their first estate was an exalted condition set forth by God as a cosmic order. And if he is saying they gave that up, that kind of implies a rebellious sort of a status, which would explain why they had eternal chains on them, because man can be forgiven through grace of Jesus in that situation, but these guys can't because they disrupted the cosmic order laid down by God. So a part of that was that they had relations with females on Earth and stuff, and gave birth to the Nephilim. And the Nephilim are also referenced in Genesis 6 verses 1 through 4. They're described also as the Son of God, and that they were mighty and men of renown. Giants is the literal interpretation, or fallen ones, for the Hebrew Nephilim. They're also mentioned in Numbers 13:33 from a report concerning giants by Canaanites that were in the hills. So there's been references to the offspring of the situation that Jude talks about, which is this rebellion that these angels are like, no, we're throwing this off. We're not keeping this estate. We're doing this other thing now. You should join us. But it, didn't work out, I suppose. But a lot of people, that's where the reference, there were giants in the earth in those days. But also that reference comes from people from that time period literally finding dinosaur bones in the earth too. One of the reasons why the legends of dragons is European and Asian and everywhere is because on every continent you can find this large scale structured bones of things that have died. In other words, dinosaurs. That's where the myth of the Cyclops comes in with the Greek, ancient Greeks. We found actually mammoth skeletons that were in Greek temples that had been reconstructed anthropomorphically, and right where the hose would be of the trunk of the nose is a big hole in the skull, and so they thought that was where the eye was. And there's also been prehistoric bones that's been found in other Greek temples and such. And also, too, there's an overlay of dinosaur graveyard pits that coincides with battles between the Olympian deities and the Titans. So a lot of that whole idea of the Nephilim goes in that direction. The other direction that it goes into is kind of what they were talking about in Genesis, which is a corruption of man, basically, where man is getting away from the pious ideas of God's order and doing things that are different that he didn't decree, and thus are corrupting society and the human condition. And those people are also known as the Nephilim in some texts. So there's that.
Yeah, a lot of like I said, that human resonant energy in different ways here. And this is one of those things that, like you said, is very ancient. We're talking, ancient Egyptian, but also you got to believe it happened long before that. Again, that predator prey instinct and being looked at in the back of your head. And then what if there's legitimately nobody there you can prove? It's I don't know, it's a strange thing, sort of a disassociative effect of just being in your space, like something's in your space. We're at about that point. We can take another caller, or you can finish out the segment. It's up to you. You tell me. Hang tight, Kelly. Either way, and we'll get to you momentarily. But if you got more stuff, willing to hear it. What you got?
No, man, I'm good. Thank you.
Appreciate the call. Fire stuff. That's Eric. You know him, you love him. Again, new friend, good friend, and check out his stuff. You can find that on troubledminds.org. Just scroll down. It says follow Eric here. Go check out his music. He's got a YouTube channel where he has created some music and some things, and I haven't checked it out yet, so bad on me. But I am up to my neck and busy, and I promise I will check it out. I'm sure he's a very talented guy, as you can tell. Not just as smart as he is, but also I'll bet you he's a talented musician as well. Love to hear your thoughts on this. We're talking the Watchers, the silent ones. I'm calling them entities that observe but never interact. Why is that? It seems like it's been around since the dawn of time. Let's go to Kelly in Colorado. What's up, brother? You're on Troubled Minds. Thanks for being patient. How are you, sir? And go right ahead.
Good evening, Michael. How you doing?
Good evening, Kelly. I'm just fine. I like how you always bring my energy down. I go right ahead. I mean, in a good way. Go right ahead. What you got?
Just doing some mellow yellow, you know what I'm saying?
Right on. I feel you.
So the topic, I love it. Good call so far. Last one with Eric. I'm going to kind of bounce off some of his stuff where some people might get a little bit confused by wording from even like ancient tales. But so Watchers, like through my research, right, most of these Watchers, like through all these ancient times, were more or less like I guess you could say that they were calling them their gods, right? So I mean, they were initially supposed to not interfere, just watch, observe, and I guess report. You know what I mean? Who they're reporting to, who knows? That could. I mean, even with all the stories that we know, with like whatever species came down here, right? So I'm going to touch on with like, for an example, one watcher was like Krishna. Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, right? Krishna's talking with the king Arjuna, right? And in that book, he talks about they're sitting on a mountaintop, and Arjuna's kingdom was supposed to go with war with another kingdom, and he's trying to, he's asking questions to Krishna of like, trying more or less avoid the war. Is there a way to do it? And Krishna's more or less telling him, if it's coming down to it, there's no other way. This is the way. This is how you're supposed. You're supposed to defend, you know what I mean? But he was like that type thing. He was a watcher. He was an observer. He's never, and even Jorna was asking him, if he could, intervene, which he said he could not. Now, through other stuff, like when it goes through, ancient stuff, ancient writings, and then goes into, biblical, where a lot of that's being, used from ancient stuff, even like Eric was talking about in Egypt, right? But even older than that was the stories of like the Sumerian gods, right? There was actually, so that group of people, whoever they were, when they had two different people that were working on two different planets, which was Mars and Earth. Now the Agigi, that's who this is all going to pantheon down to. In the writings, they talk about those people. They are the Agigi, right? And what they were on Mars, what they were called back then, were the guardians of heaven and earth, which is earth. Heaven is more or less, I guess you would say, the galactic space, or out there, right? Everything but Earth. Now, the reason why they were they're also known as gatekeepers. They were always, they did their job on Mars. That's where you get a lot of all that pyramids and, the face on Mars. That was a fallen king that they lasered his face on there, and his body's inside of it. But the Agigis, they were supposed to be, like I was saying, like they were gatekeepers and guardians of heaven and earth. So when they were always looking down upon Earth, and they were more or less by themselves up there. There was no women, interaction. So they came to Earth, right, with the guy who was actually ruling them at the time, which was Enki's son, right, Marduk. Marduk's mentioned in the Bible as well, in the Christian Bible. He's also, and the word watchers, that's what those Agigis were. They came to Earth, there was 200 of them, right? They even talked about the same number systems, how many they were from the Christian Bible to, the Sumerian tales. When they came here, they were supposed to have, they wanted women for wives and all that stuff. That's where you get all the stories like Eric was explaining. But the thing about it and the only time you see watchers, though, it wasn't really in the only biblical and in the Christian Bible, it was in Daniel 4:13, where he talks about he was dreaming about, he's talking about a dream, and he wants an explanation, and he calls upon this like wizard, that knows it, like a very strong, powerful wizard, I guess. And he was, wanted to know his interpretation of this dream. And what the dream was is that a watcher came down with what he called a holy one. So when people talk about when that they were holy ones, the watchers, it was a watcher came down with a holy one, right? He came, and the way they explain it is he came down from heaven. So it's just like one of those ones, like, again, you go back to Sumerian tales, but and in the Book of Enoch, that's where you find like the whole pantheon story of the Watchers, right? They were here again. That's like the Agigi. They were supposed to come down here. They had women for wives, right? But when they came here, when they did start interacting with humans, right? That's when they started sharing this knowledge, and that's where they call them the fallen ones, because they weren't really supposed to be doing that. They had like certain skills, you know what I mean? Like ancient knowledge, metalworking, cosmetology, sorcery, divination, which is actually, more or less sorcery, because you're using, idols or whatnot, and pharmacology, which is, more or less how to take care of the body. Even that, you'll find that through ancient Egypt, right? Like in India as well, they were doing like major surgeries. But and they tell you that these people, their gods came down and, taught them all this ancient knowledge. But then you go back, when I speak, when I think about like watchers, so it's something like, you're talking in the beginning of your show, where it talks about like, they just watch, they don't interact, right? It's kind of like Odin's ravens, right? hugging and communing, right? Mind and thought. That's more or less what they're thought of, right? Or thought or memory. But they would fly off into like this world and, record a bunch of stuff and then go back and tell Odin what they've seen. So they were watchers, but they were, never interacted. They were just recording and, sending that out. Now there's some, ancient astronaut theory or whatever you want to call it, but you have like the story of the Black Knight satellite, right? This thing's been up there supposedly for, thousands of years, right? But what's interesting about this one, what gets me, like, again, you take with a grain of salt, but at the same time, when they were talking about the way it was going around the Earth, they was doing polar orbit instead of, regular orbit we were doing. We couldn't even achieve that until, later on in the like 80s or 70s, late 70s, where we could get a satellite to do polar orbit. And that'd be the best way to do it if you're scanning something doing polar orbit, because you could get every part of the Earth, going from north to south instead of, going east and west or east or, that direction, horizontal or vertically. So, let's see, what else? That's pretty much it. Yeah, that's about it, from like the watcher standpoint. I mean, I know there's a lot of ancient stories. I mean, I could go on for a while about, they're talking about these gods from, that were standby. They never really interacted. And when they did, they weren't actually really supposed to. That's what's crazy about even all these stories. You go Greek, Roman, Sumerian, Egyptian, even South American, like all these gods were supposed to be here, and they weren't really supposed to interact. They're just, again, like you're saying, the show is, they're supposed to be watching, but they start interfering with the human. I guess they fall in love with this somehow, either the males and females, they were doing both. They just fell in love with their creation and started doing things they weren't really supposed to be doing. And that's how you get like all the whole fallen angel stuff, where, they're not really, and it's actually, it's just more knowledge. I would have to say, looking at it, it looks like technology, the way everything was built and, and the type of stone and granite, around the world, so what else are you going to call it?
Absolutely. Fire stuff as always, brother. Appreciate you. Thanks for staying up late with us. Thanks for hanging out. Tell Michelle we said hi. You have a great night.
All right, man. You too. Have a good one.
Thanks a lot. That's Kelly in Colorado. You know me, love him. The oldest caller, not the oldest, but her first caller that keeps calling back. Good friend. Be right back. More Troubled Minds coming up. The silent ones, entities that observe but never interact. What do you know about it? Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, X, Twitch, D-Live, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And, of course, 88.4 FM, Auckland, New Zealand on the Underground Media Network. Tonight, we're talking, what if unseen eyes have been watching us since the dawn of time? Never interfering, never speaking, only observing. Could these silent entities be cosmic archivists, reality's custodians, or something far more unsettling? If their purpose is to wait, then the real question is, what happens when the waiting ends? Which is what I was bringing up with that predator-prey interaction. Recognize if you're being stalked in the wild or something, you kind of know it, right? You have that feeling of being watched. So I do wonder if there's something happening with that metaphysical energy where, like I was talking with Eric there, the archons are licking their chops. They're like, ooh, this one is ripe and I want to take a bite, right? Sort of move into the space, the forbidden space that they're not allowed into, back to that, Enoch and his tale of the watchers themselves. I don't know. It's a wild thing to consider that our intuition is possibly our metaphysical antenna in a lot of ways. Again, just throwing an idea out there. What do you guys think? 702-957-1037. James, anything to add? And we'll go to Kramos after that.
great calls from everyone. I can confirm there have been a few times over the years where I've been sitting here and thinking, wow, someone's watching me. And I look around, and there is Logan, my cat, sitting there looking at me. And it is a weird thing, but it does happen. And, who knows what's on their mind. I mean, as I say, my master is very merciful, but also she will end me at some point in time. I have no doubt there. No, kidding, not kidding, half joking, whatever you want to call that. But yeah, I've caught her watching me before, and it is a weird feeling when that happens.
Yeah, it is, and it is, like I said, it's a thing that can be replicated. Not directly every single damn time, but certainly we have that instinct in us to kind of recognize when we're being sort of scoped out for the next bite, Anyway, do you think it fits into this? One more time, 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Come say hi. Come join the conversation here. My game is not to be weird and stupid. I mean, that's weird, yes, but not to make you feel unwelcome. My job is to make you feel welcome here. That's the whole point. Proving we can carve out our own corner of the internet. Well, this is where people that believe different things can get together and talk about them together. So everybody's welcome if you want to be part of the conversation. Let's go to Kramos. What's up, brother Kramos in Chile? How you doing, my man? You're on Troubled Minds with Mike and James and everybody else here. How are you, sir? And go right ahead. All you got to do is unmute and you are on Troubled Minds.
Hello, Mike and James. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear. I'm turning you down just a little bit, but I can hear you just fine. What is going on? How are you tonight? Go right ahead.
All good. I was listening to the show and some very great calls. Greetings to the people of New Zealand. I have family there. I'm going to receive a very important visit on April from my aunt and my cousin.
Nice. Tell them we're on 88.4 FM, Auckland, New Zealand. Check it out. And by the
Auckland, New Zealand.
By the way, it's coming. We're expanding into different parts of New Zealand as well. I'll announce that when it happens. So it won't necessarily just be Auckland. It will be other places. And of course, we're working on syndicating in different ways as well, different countries. And of course, here terrestrially in the United States. But and by the way, you're in Chile. Can you help us with some of that secret sauce down there? I'd love to broadcast live on radio down there if you know anything about it. But anyway, I digress. Go right ahead. What do you got for us tonight?
Oh, that's a great idea. And you read my mind. Let me tell you that much. I'm going to give you my information about it other day in private chat. In the topic, I think it's great to have the history, biblical, religious history. It's great, but I want to make the announcement to everybody to start building your own Watchers history, because, well, I put the link in the chat about Lucy. And this is a light in the night sky that appears whenever she wants, and sometimes I call her and she interacts. So Lucy, I call her, and sometimes she interacts with me. And I think every vision that everyone can see, it's their own interaction. The will and the energy of having or wanting to have that interaction, it built it. You can build the interaction, and, well, you can see whatever you want.
Okay, so what is Lucy? So, of course, it brings to mind the Beatles song "Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds." But what is that? What actually are you dealing with? Do you know? Is it an intuition aspect, meaning that you kind of feel like it might be this, but do you really know what that is? What are you dealing with out there?
I know what I believe, and since 2019, I saw this flash. It's when you see the sky in the night, you see the stars, and behind the stars is this flash that can move or be still, but it's a intermittent flash, goes boom, boom, and you can see it and I call her many times. For me, I conceive it as my universal mother. So I say Lucy, Lucy, and sometimes she responds.
Okay, so you can bring this to you. You can summon this. I mean, this is very Stephen Greer, very Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, sort of through. Is it meditation? How do you explain a little bit more to me? And basically, we're gonna bring it back to the silent ones, because of course I imagine that we're talking about this is the Watcher. This is your Watcher, possibly guardian angel or whatnot. But how do you bring Lucy to you? Is there a particular thing that you found works more or less? What does that look like?
I think everybody can just say the name, or maybe you could put it another name if you want to, but to call, make the call. I can be in any mood. I can be sad or very happy or whatever. I can call her, and in San Pedro de Atacama in North Chile in 2020. We were in the pandemic, and I called her, and it was a great visit, because you can see yourself. You can, in my personal experience, I could forgive myself, to be like a healing with myself, from myself. So for me, it's like every night I'm just looking up there. I'm looking up.
Okay, perfect. And so, as I said, kind of bringing it back to that, do you believe this is maybe how the Watchers maybe manifest to us, show us themselves or whatever? And what do you think the Watchers are? Are they indeed, like I said, probably the most basic aspect of this? And I don't mean basic in a bad way. I mean basic in the sense that the population probably recognizes this actual specific thing we're talking about as a guardian angel, something to that effect. But do you think we all have one? Do you think, let's say, and again, just sort of break down the ideas, maybe mine's called Jimmy or something and not Lucy or whatever, right? Whatever it is. I got a question about that, but is mine here too? And I can go sort of find this. Do you think that's it? Or do you think there's maybe a I don't know, like a latent energy within us where we can see it? It shows it. I don't know. What's your take there? Do we all have this, or is this just one of those things that you think is unique to you?
Yeah, everyone has the possibility and the circumstance to call for a connection. I think you have it also, and you can put the name that you want. There's not a static category. I think everybody can call it whatever, but to make the call and to see it, it's your own individual process, I think. But I have seen this Lucy Mother light since 2017, and well, start calling whatever name you want, but you will see it. I can guarantee it that you will see it, because I'm watching, in fact, right now, the day that you are going to write, "Hey, Kramos, I saw Lucy."
Wait, but is my star in the sky, or the orb, or whatever we're looking at?
The name you want.
Whatever name I want. Okay, so it could be Jimmy or Frank or something, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Right on. And so my question about that, by the way, thank you for bringing that back up. I have these as we're talking. I wish we could map sort of the way my head, like my thoughts, sort of rotate as you guys are talking and we're having these conversations, because you say something and I hone in on it and I'm like, oh, that's amazing. I want to talk about that. Whatever it is, right? No, it's not the Illuminati symbol. Whatever it is, right? Whatever it is. And then you continue talking, we continue talking, and it strays away and I forget what it is. But the naming aspect, do you think that, let's say, this light in the sky, this companion of yours, named itself and put it in your head? You know what I mean? Or do you think you had a role in naming this? You see what I'm saying? Like a telepathic communication sort of thing?
Yeah, I understand. When I saw this light the first time, a friend of mine in Santiago told me, "Yeah, that's Lucy," and I was like, "Who's Lucy?" The Flash that you were telling me about. That's Mother Lucy, and he starts explaining me the visions and the community. They're getting together and calling Lucy in many parts of Chile. So, guardian angel, of course. Of course, when I see Lucy and I know that she's there always, darkness will never touch a single cell of my material existence. So when I'm late night in the street, I call Lucy. When some guys are in the corner or walking in the same sidewalk, I call Lucy and I feel absolutely safe because I know she's there.
Awesome. Jorge in the chat says, yep, I see her too. She's my guardian angel as well. There you go. We got some corroboration here. How about, I don't know, as usual, right? You know me, I want to consider all the ideas and I do wonder if this is the next step of that acceleration of technology, is that we're going to recognize these things and be able to sort of, I don't know, even spot the entanglement. Because again, technologically speaking, you could have an entanglement with this, entity, whatever you want to call it, the guardian angel or whatever, like actual quantum entanglement consciousness aspect with quantum cognition and all that stuff. I know it's weird. It's weird to me that, the old ways seem to be resurfacing and are becoming relevant. And welcome to Troubled Minds. That's how we do it. We got a call behind you, so we're kind of in that space where if you got more, you can finish, or you can kind of wrap it up. You tell me. We got Jen on the line behind you on the phone, but what you got? Go ahead. You decide.
I will finish with a very simple idea. Sometimes if I don't call Mother Lucy, I'm walking my dogs and she appears anyways. And like I see in the side of my view spectrum, I see the flash and I look and there's a flash again. So sometimes she appears when I don't even call her. And so that's why now I walk my dogs looking for her and calling her every single night. So I think maybe you will see her in the name of the belief that you want to build on it. You will see her maybe when you don't call it or call him or whatever, or maybe you will see it when you call her or call him, whatever. So everybody starts calling. I think they're going to be very good surprises.
Right on. Fire stuff. I appreciate it very much. Thank you for sharing the experience and the ideas, and of course the name. Maybe Lucy can also visit you. Don't forget to follow Kramos. TroubledMinds.org/friends. Scroll down a little bit. It says Kramos here. Go check out his YouTube channel. Talented guy, as you know. We've like I said, we have a knack for attracting talented friends. I don't know what it is. But I'll take it. Very smart, very, very talented folks. We're talking the silent ones tonight. Entities that observe but never interact. What is this? We've done shows on this in the past. Who will watch the watchers? Of course, it's one of the most basic. The old idea, because this scales up, and so if there are eternal watchers, of course, well. Who's watching whom? 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. Just like this, let's go to Jen in Missouri, the Arcane Observer. How are you? Welcome to the show. Go right ahead.
Hey, Mike. How's it going?
Good evening. I'm doing fantastic. I was not feeling it when we started, but you guys saved me. So thank you. Appreciate that very much.
Yeah, how could you not be?
I don't know. It's
an incredible topic.
The muses are a fickle thing. I don't know. Sometimes you feel it, sometimes you don't. But I'm glad I'm here, and I'm glad we get all the amazing ideas from you, amazing people. What you got for us tonight?
Okay, well, we have talked about it, but I mean, there's always more to talk about with it. I think that when I'm looking at this, when I'm thinking about the Watchers, I absolutely believe in the Watchers. The concept is there's an observance occurring in some way. It's not always obvious. I mean, we are an observer. If you're studying in when they're talking about, any type of esoteric art at all, they begin to try to separate you from just living in the experience, and they want to take you outside of it, and they want you to observe it from the outside, even observe yourself from the outside. It's like the rider and the horse scenario. So, anytime people are going into, at least in all the things I've ever heard about or anything like that, there's always this concept of you have to take yourself outside of just at first, you have to take yourself out of that sort of domain and see yourself sort of outside of, you have to see from the outside, cast something of yourself outside of yourself and be seeing yourself going through what you're doing and all the events that you're having and so on and so forth. These first initiatory steps lead into communicating with, once you're outside of that part of yourself, once you have the concept that you can be observing that everyone is having either this completely withal experience where they're just moving through, their lives doing whatever they're supposed to be doing. But when they separate away from that and they're observing what they're doing from the outside through some mental practices and things like that, they begin to see an observer effect occurring. And it's sort of like, instead of just being the horse or being whatever the case, you see yourself as a soul riding a horse and then seeing it in that kind of way, but then observing your own environment. But in that environment of when you're casting yourself up out there, there's a sort of realization that too, you're kind of communing up with the other seeing spirits. I don't know what you would call them, but other observant archetypes that are out there that are intelligences that are separate from the experience, that are observing the experience, and there's interactions with them. You see this in like voodoo, and you see this in every type of, in quote, witchcraft of any kind, of anything like that. There's an interaction in that regard, but you have to come outside of your experience first. And they do that by forcing it through different rituals, or they do it through, in quote, medicines or whatever. But there's simple ways of doing that just through practices. But then the actual nature of those entities that are out in there and what you actually are when you're alone with yourself is a much different creature than what you are presenting to the world. So, like, the interactions people have with their own species and everything is all a societal expectation. But if you look at, if we're being really honest about the nature of the world we are living in, and though it is very beautiful and everything, it's kind of like you've talked about before, sort of the savage garden aspect, because that is exactly what it is. There is not not necessarily, it appears to be a kindness, that's how we're interpreting it, but there is all these aspects at work in nature that are not necessarily kind. They are the way that they are. And there's a great deal of cruelty in it. You see that with all of the other creatures we are surrounded by. There is nothing that is simply benevolent. Even butterflies eat blood and sweat and will feast upon it and drain something of it. So even the most beautiful things that you're seeing, there's this undercurrent that could be perceived, at least in human terms, as being a negative thing. So when thinking about what are they watching for, or what are they observing, and then if you look at the human history of mythologies and things like that, which I like, is that, a lot of people are talking about that right now, and how all of those mythologies are all tied together. They all tell the same stories. You can go anywhere on the planet and they all tell the same stories. And it's not a very nice story in some regards. I mean, we interpret it that way, but there's all this confusion, and there's talk about, what is actual devil worship? What is it? Or what are these fallen angels? What are they? The idea that something they were set to be doing something. In the case of the fallen angels, these were angels that left their first estate. The concept that they were drawn down for some reason to observe. And then the issue of how human beings, the way that they are entwined with some type of divinity. The stories about Osiris, and you see it in Dionysus, I mentioned this in the chat, Dionysus, Osiris, Wodenaz, all of these, you can many of those gods that they were that particular archetype of that god. There was this sort of the heart continuing on, though the body was shred to pieces, though it was torn apart. And Zoroastrianism talks about this. And I'm going to come back to why the Watchers are in a way associated with what I'm talking about. But in Zoroastrianism, the concept is that there's an avataristic experience going on where you come here and you're almost like a puppet for something that is aware of something that you are not aware of. And it is using the avatar in a way, and the avatar is a sacrifice. This is all up throughout all of the sacrificial conversations, and you see that with the heart surviving, like whenever, even in the Maya, where they rip the heart out, literally beating, and show it to the sun. And you see that in so many different practices, where though it's saying that this is something separate from this life force is something separate from this. Even, I guess you can see it reflected in Christianity most recently, a very new way of seeing it. The concept, but it's a very ancient, clarifying vision of it for the West. But the idea of the you and me, we will all be sacrificed. We are living this life to experience what is necessary to be experienced. And there's only two choices. There's only two in this world: is to live or die. And so there's this choice all the time about how you will live and the confrontations you have with life and how it is constantly challenging that. You'll have a good day and then something really terrible will happen. And it goes on and on like that. But at the end of it all, there is the surrender to that. Now, the Watcher aspect of it, of how is that tying in? Entertainment. I mean, the whole, are you not entertained? And the things that I deal with and see a lot of times, I just work with crime. I work with criminals and things like that. So I see a lot of the horrific things that people can do. We try to tie a lot of benevolence, that there is some type of guardianship or kindness involved in it all. But I mean, this is clearly, it's not necessarily just for entertainment. There's something very unusual about the nature of whatever these Watchers are. They are not necessarily, I don't think, and this is my personal opinion, they're not human. There's something different about it.
Very well said. I that's why I talk about this, by the way. You know me. We've been friends for a long time now. And I see a very serious element to this, and that's why these conversations need to happen. Always a pleasure, Jen. Appreciate the call. You have a fantastic night. Unless you got more, you're welcome to stay. You tell me.
Thank you, Mike. Do you have anybody calling? I'll say one last thing if you don't have somebody calling.
Ricky's right behind you, but we got more if you can be more.
I'll call it a night then.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike.
Have a great night. Be right back. More Troubled Minds on the way. I'll tell you about Jen when we get back. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, X, Twitch, D-Live, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And, of course, 88.4 FM, Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight, we're talking the silent ones, the Watchers. Is it possible... Let me read the blurb. What if unseen eyes have been watching us since the dawn of time, never interfering, never speaking, and only observing? And again, like I said, it's a weird human dynamic where you can say, I mean, maybe, I don't know. Like if you're a materialist, you're like, no, Mike, stop it. That's ridiculous. Okay, fine. That's fine. Like I said, you win. I'm not here to argue with anybody. I'm here to sort of expand ideas and make us look at the cosmos in a different way. That's all. Because I like to do that. I literally like to do that myself. It's always been a sort of a thought experiment of mine. What are we missing? And how large and weird and bizarre does it get with the science we know? Because clearly there's going to be a ton of science we don't. Remember, propaganda and science are two very different things, and science is always changing. Also is propaganda, so be very aware. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I have no idea. Of course, no conclusions for me. That's not my game. It's just possibilities. But what do you know about the silent ones and the watchers themselves? And is it possible there is something happening that's outside of the human experience that's a little bit more woo? James, anything you got? And then we'll go to Ricky after that.
Just great calls from everyone. Great call from Jen. Always glad to hear from her. Especially glad to have her as a co-host in my own podcast, Salcedo Paranormal. And but also she has her own great channel, so I recommend checking that out as well. So, just so many thoughts tonight. I don't know where else to really go, but just that there do seem to be various beings, entities that are out there that do watch. I don't think there's just one type or one kind. I also want to mention the fact, and we've talked about this before, that we can use different words to describe the same thing, it seems, at times. So just whenever you hear someone use a word to describe something, listen to the rest of the details of what they're describing, just in case maybe you might think at first, based on that one word, they're talking about something different than what you think about or what you're talking about, but that may not always be the case.
Yeah, well said, all that. And thank you for jogging my memory. Please go follow Jen, the Arcane Observer. Link's going to be in the description down below, troubledminds.org/friends. Just scroll down a little bit. It says Jen. Click that. Go follow her in all the places. There's an X account. There's her YouTube account. And, of course, she is also the co-host of Salcedo Paranormal as well on the weekends when they do shows together. So please check that out. Lots of amazing content that these amazing people are creating. So let's help each other. Again, like I said, I don't know why people would turn on, CNN or Fox News in this ridiculous media climate when there's so many amazing people making so many amazing things, ideas, and just talking about, I don't know, whatever's important to you. Let me tell you what, that stuff is just not important to me. Propaganda is it may be a budding expertise of mine, but I'm just so not interested. Like sometimes I just want to be silent and just listen to nothing but my thoughts and the cosmos and the guy honking at me. Hey, the light's green. Oh, sorry. But anyway, I'd love to hear what you guys think about this. What about the watchers, and how weird does it get? 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show just like this. What's up, Ricky? Anything is Possible podcast. How you doing, brother? Welcome to the joint, and go right ahead, sir.
Good. How are you doing, sir?
No complaints. I'm happy to be here and happy to have so many smart friends, because like I said, I kind of dragged myself into this, I guess this will work. Because look, it's hard putting these shows together because I'm trying to come up with something novel, but also like you do that too much, and then you sound like even to like the people that like enjoy the conversations, you sound like such a crazy weirdo. So it's like, I don't know. It's I guess it's a fine line, but this turns out just fine. This turned out just fine because of all you incredible folks. So welcome to the joint. What do you know about the watchers? And go right ahead.
I just want to say, James, you didn't have to get off for my count. You could have kept on saying stuff. Don't jump off the show just for me. I promise you, she's a lot smarter than I am.
A lot smarter than many of us. Yeah, indeed.
For real. I just wanted to kind of thought process. Something just popped in my head, and I'm sitting there thinking, I wonder, it was just listening and kind of lurking in the background and doing other things, but it just kind of popped in my head, and I was like, what about the Jinn and Watchers? And, and I actually put it in my old buddy Grok and asked, can Jinn be Watchers? And it was pretty, it was pretty neat how a lot of the overlapping things and stuff, and I was thinking too, like what Kratos was saying, reach out and ask for say a name and trying to interact and stuff like that. Me personally, that scared the devil out of me, but. Because you never know who you're going to actually reach out to and who you're talking to, especially, if you start certain entities or this and that, you might get something that you really don't need to be talking to. Seen online the other day, somebody was sitting there for talking to this entity on a Ouija board for the last 13 years straight, and I was like, holy hell, just like we're not this kind of they're like, we're not this kind of people, but this is what we've been doing this for 13 years. I'm like, well, I don't know about all that, I don't want to even look at a Ouija board myself, but seeing sitting there, talking to it, to something on it for 13 years is just wild. And just kind of makes me curious, like I said, I was thinking about the jinn, how they kind of interacted with us, and you have like ancient Greeks and mythology, and Roman mythology, stuff. You looking, with kind of the gods and stuff, watching over us, and then every once in a while they come down and actually kind of help us, and it was Protheus fire and stuff like that. It's the possibility, for sure is there that, that we've had something watching us. I actually told a story. I've told it on a couple, but I did it on James's podcast a while back, and when I went on to his, and about, I actually truly, when I was a kid, I believe I seen at the time I thought I seen an angel right there in my room, and talking to me and having a conversation with me, which I'd never seen again. But I wish to everything I remember, which I remember. But I've seen that. You see spirits, you see kind of darkness and shadow people and stuff like that over time. But guardian angels and stuff like that, I do believe in that. There's either that, I'm just the luckiest son of God I'm alive, just because some of the stuff I've bounced off of and lived through, and I drove through a tree, hit another tree, and walked home, and just got a couple of scars to show for it, kind of deal. It's just silly stuff that I've lived through that is, just for sure. Mom always had to put a little guardian angel. Don't drive faster than your guardian angel can fly, and I always had a little clip on my visor.
I was about to say that exact same thing. Yeah. My mom, again. So I grew up in a family that was not very religious. Sort of the post Catholicism, like sort of rejecting those ideas. But my mom would tell me, shout out Mama Strange if you're out there. Precious cargo, right? Is what you would tell me regarding driving and be very safe. But it's clearly the same sentiment. Whether the belief comes from a guardian angel type thing, But I wanted to point out too that you brought up the jinn, and that actually came into the session tonight. I was brainstorming and doing all things and sort of you know me. I like to kind of look at all the different angles as much as possible, and then bring them into a conversation that doesn't make me sound like I'm a super fractured schizo, right? I mean the meme term, not the actual term. That's horrific. But please heal, get help, all the stuff. But so I don't want to take that lightly, but. You get what I mean is that the jinn came up as part of it, as part of the Watchers, as one of those both malevolent and benevolent sort of spirits that have been there since the dawn of time, since even before humanity. And so, yeah, there's a lot of, again, going back, as Jen was saying very well, that there's this is a resonant human thing. And so no matter where you kind of trace this back to, as Eric was saying too, ancient Egypt, as Kelly was saying, beyond that, there's these ideas that seem to stick. And the jinn came up as part of that wild stuff. What else you got? Go ahead.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I was, the kind of overlapping kind of the thought process, like the Watchers and the jinn, you kind of, like you just said with the malevolent, I can't say the word right now, but benevolence and malevolence, and they have, there's good jinn, they believe there's good jinn, there's bad jinn, they're kind of more evil kind of tricksters that will mess with you and kind of stuff like that, and you're looking at a lot of the demons and stuff. just, it's been a cool, interesting subject, tonight. And I said, that just thought process, that's kind of cool. That thought process of the gym popped in my head, and made me want to think about it. And I wrote this down earlier. I don't know if I was going to actually click on there and call in or not, but Shane was talking about, like the old buildings and stuff. There's several actually looking into on a completely over 180 switch stuff is, talking about like the old time structures and stuff, like maybe maybe the older civilization, because they, if you look at like in our history books, a lot of buildings and stuff, they say, well, it was this magnificent marble building, brick and marble building was built in like a year, and we couldn't touch it, in 10 years, we couldn't do the same thing kind of deal. And there's there's several I've seen talking about that, like the old time architecture, and maybe actually some of those buildings were actually older than we actually, kind of like the old temples and stuff where they were built on top of an old temple kind of thing, with like, in Greek and ancient Turkey and stuff like that. You can see the old structure and all that. So actually there's a lot of thought process. I've seen a couple of times for different spots. Sweets actually sent me the one channel, and talking about the old architecture, and like, possibly that was like a lot of them buildings are already here way before. That's because, like, a lot of the old maps and stuff like that actually showed, cities and towns over here even before that, there was even known to be here, like castles and stuff like that. So it was, I had that pop in my head too when Shane was talking. But yeah, that's all I got really. I just wanted to thought about process that GN and the Watchers actually, could be correlated right there, and the Kratos talking about the talking to Plume, and speaking to their like I said, that scares me there. I like messing with stuff though myself.
Yeah. Well, the thing becomes, like you brought up spirit boards too, is that I call it the Ouija board effect, right? But some people have sort of taken the term out, sort of unloaded the term, and spirit board sounds a lot less scary, right? And so, as usual, when you're communicating with something, as I've always said, be careful of what it might be. Right. It's there are, again, trickster elements, not just in humanity, but you would expect there's a mirror of that in entities elsewhere. And as James said earlier, stuff could be good, stuff can be bad. Walk into a room with people, right? And it's a weird thing too. The dynamic, just in human terms, is that just because you don't vibe with somebody doesn't mean they're not like a cool and chill person, right? I mean, so there's still, like sort of a dissonant energy effect of two good people that maybe are just not interested in the same stuff, So I don't know. It's complicated for sure when you talk about these ideas, but I don't know. Like I just my non-expert opinion when you're dealing with that type of stuff is be cautious, and that maybe you're not communicating with who you're communicating with. That's all. Just be careful.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe in the auras too. Like you can, I don't know. I've been there. I've been, walking to a place and you're like, this is not where I need to be. And it could be, it could be like, that people are in a different mindset. But I think sometimes, that we have very good, mind, conscience inside of us that that a lot of times we ignore. We kind of blow it off like, just me messing with myself, But me personally, I've seen it so many times go, hey, when I ignored it, bad stuff happened every time. I truly ignored it. Like, man, this ain't good. Like, it was deep down. And then later, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna pay attention, and then I would make sure I didn't do stuff. And then later on, I found out, like, if I'd been there or been near that person or this kind of situation would happen, I would have been into some deep shit, deep stuff. I'm sorry, but it was for sure, that energy and, inside us, just, people need to pay attention to it, and what we're doing, and be cautious, like you said, be cautious of who you talk to and who you're around, and, positive vibes and stuff, positive people. If you bring yourself around negative people, you're going to be negative. You're going to have negative energy, and you're going to think negative, and you're going to be down and depressed and stuff. And you actually, when you turn around and you fill your life with positive people, then you'll see a complete 180 change, and all of a sudden your uplifting outlook on life is just, turned up, because you're not gloom and doom. If you hear gloom and doom every day, like you said, why pay attention to all the news and Fox and CNN, gloom and doom and despair, if you sit there and you can listen to so much more positive stuff and actually, be happier and enjoy life a little more,
Amen. Like I said, follow Alex Jones on X and then enable notifications. I've done that just to see how he markets. I'm a Machiavellian a-hole sometimes, and I'm like, so what is this guy doing that like exploded? And he, of course, he's a propagandist, 100%. Okay, he might be a deep state, right? I don't know. Like you guys decide on that. But everything he posts or tweets is like, the end is nigh. Like everything is doom. Everything is doom. It's like, really, bro? Like, can we not do doom all the time? Anyway, Ricky, you have enlightened me to a concept that we need to do a show on. So I've made a note, and I'm calling it, and it won't happen very soon unless I run out of ideas, which happens sometimes. But I'm calling it metaphysical stranger danger. And so, be careful who you're talking to when you're talking to them. That's all I got on that. What else you got, sir? Go ahead if you got anything else.
I said, yeah, I used to be, I listened to Alex every once in a while. I used to, for a little while, and my buddy of mine had to sit there and catch me. He's like, Ricky, calm the F down, he's like, it's all right, I was like, man, I got to do this, the hell well about the end, basically, and I was just, and I got all in my head, and I got to do this for my parents. I got to do this. I ain't got the money to do all that. I'm just going nuts. And he was like, Ricky, turn that shit off. Stop watching it. It's for a little bit at least. I'm like, and so, and so now it's like, I believe on everything. It's like yin and yang. Moderation. If you you need to see a little bit what's going on in the world for sure. You can't just put your head in the sand and hope to God something, somebody don't kick you in the butt as they walk by. But it's a balance to it. You need to see some stuff, and then you need to, like kind of do on our show. If we get kind of gloomy and doom or something, it kind of gets kind of sad. Like, all right, we're stopping, and like last week I showed a video of a cat on some ice. It was sitting there jumping around and hopping around and stuff. Just just to break the whole, like, all right, we've gone dark enough. Let's bring it back up.
Exactly. The old you got to recognize when that stuff's happening. It is easy to latch onto an idea and go down a rabbit hole, and then suddenly you're talking about blood ritual sacrifice. You know what I mean? Especially like in like a conspiracy type of space. Ooh, that gets to be some really, really heavy stuff. And I'm not saying it's not a thing. I'm saying it's a horrific thing. And to have that on your mind all the time is not, it's just not the best. It is not the best. Fire stuff, Ricky. What else you got for us? As you know, we got a few minutes left. If you got anything else, fire. If not, you're free. Smeagol's free. You tell me what you got.
That's it. I appreciate you as always. I appreciate you, doing the show and everybody, all the callers and stuff. Everything was it's always a blessing to have so many different concepts and different ideas of different people and different ways of looking at things. I had some funny story. I had some Jehovah's Witnesses one day show up at my house, and I think I was almost converted them that day to myself, but because they were. One guy was showing up was on the same vibe as me, but I was like, you can't, if you look at any situation, and if you look at books or whatever. You got to look at through the skew of what, you got life lessons. You've lived through things that other people hadn't lived through. And so you're going to look at that a certain skew, and you're going to look at this in another skew, and so you just kind of come together, and that's the beauty of this, is we're able to come together with so many different skews of life and life lessons and journeys, and we can come together and bring knowledge and interact, and it's an awesome thing. We appreciate you.
And we appreciate you, and I appreciate you, and thanks for being part of it. Always a pleasure, brother. Thanks for staying up late with us. I know you're East Coast style a little bit, so and it's later for you than it is for me, you dirty time traveler, but thanks for spending your time and energy with us. Always a pleasure, and you have a great night. Thanks for the call.
Yes, sir. You too.
Thank you. Ricky, you know him, you love him. The AIP is the name of his podcast. Anything is possible. He's here on the network with us. Troubled Minds, what's it called? KUAP Digital Broadcasting. So it gets late in the night. My mind goes sideways. Check it out. AIP, A.I.P. Ricky is how you would find him, or of course, just how you find all the rest of these amazing people. That it is part of the in club and not the out club. Okay. You help me one iota, I'm going to try and help you, okay? That's it. So spread the word, let people know a conversation's happening. I'll say that in the end here, but do go to troubledminds.org/friends, troubledminds.net/friends also works if this one's not loading fast enough, because we got loading problems on the main page. I'm working on that, but just scroll down, troubledminds.org/friends, scroll down, it says Ricky. There you go. Bingo. Click it right there. Follow Ricky, and you'll find his podcast. And he's got some really, really smart friends too, where they're chopping it up, doing conspiracy style talk, kind of in a, like we do Friday nights, in a sort of a loose format to just talk about stuff and see what comes up, what people are thinking, and yeah. So do give him a follow. Again, Anything is Possible is the name of the podcast. Ricky, troubledminds.org/friends. James, anything to add before we wrap this up?
Great call from Ricky. Great calls from everyone. Yeah, just great topic. I wanted to touch on the whole idea of sort of watching who we're communicating with, or how we're communicating. I think one of the dangers is, especially when it comes to any kind of spirit board or whatever, unless you are specific about who you want to talk to, if you just say hello, you're saying hello to who knows how many presences out there, and or none. It's impossible to say all the time. When you're sort of just shouting out into the open, you never know what you're going to get with that. But on the flip side of that, it is amazing, because I've heard, as everyone knows, I listen to all kinds of shows. I've been doing that for years now, and there are people that use these spirit boards and other techniques that most people think are just, it's not a good idea to use at all. There are people that use these devices, and they, for the most part, have amazing experiences with them, and they become sort of tools for just enhancing their lives or the lives of others. So that's why all this is so important to talk about, because it is just so complicated, or at least it can be. So. And I did want to mention too, it's amazing with the Watchers, the idea of that is, and this is something we talked about before. I put in the chat earlier a link to, there's a version of these beings in Marvel, in the comics, and it makes me wonder. I mean, just how many different versions of Watchers are there? Are there just versions that are right here on the planet with us? Are there others that are out there in space somewhere?
Yeah, well said. The Watchers in Marvel are amazing too. It's you guys, what did I watch recently? 6-ish months ago. It was Marvel's What If. I think it was on Disney or whatever, right? Which I've canceled. But yeah. Anyway, the Watchers. Never mind. It's too late. But basically, if you can see the Watchers sort of back through the veil, it's like the ultimate reversal Uno card mind screw, right? You've pierced the veil, and you're seeing who's seeing you. And again, metaphysically, it's like, well, Does that mean you've become an ascended master or something? A wizard? Maybe. But also, is it possible? And this is actually goes back to esoteric tradition as well. That can we fool ourselves that we're a wizard and see things that aren't there? Yeah, it all plays, and that's why it's important to consider all these ideas as, let's say, fungible in terms of credibility. And I say that in the nicest way, because who knows? Who really knows? The nature of reality is a slippery fish, as I like to call it. Truth is a slippery fish, and if anybody out there knows the answers, all the answers, I expect them to be glowing and floating. That's what I expect. If I'm going to say yes, master, to anybody, they better be able to glow and float. That's my human criteria. If you want to help Troubled Minds, help our friends, you know what to do. troubledminds.org/friends, troubledminds.net/friends in case the main website is down. Scroll down. Look at all these amazing people. It is an in club, not an out club. You belong on this list. All you got to do is help us one little bit, one iota, and I want to help you too. Let's get you on this list. Help us spread the word. Let people know a conversation is happening where we will not tell you who to vote for. I've never done it on this show. I will not ever do it on this show. And by the way, the political space is... What's the term? What's the term, James? What's the term? There's a term here. I'm trying to be radio friendly, but think of the most derogatory radio friendly term I can come up with. Any ideas?
Boy, it's complicated.
Complicated. I'll say disappointing. I'll also add disappointing. There's a lot of you fill in the blank. Yeah. Anyway, so that's that. I don't know. Answers few, questions many. That's exactly the point of this. And looking at the world in just a slightly different way to maybe reframe who we are, where we're coming from, and where we're headed. But don't forget also the AI stuff. Like I said, like I've always said, like I continue to say, that acceleration is upon us. What does it look like? Nobody knows yet. But fasten in. Lock in your safety belts. What do they say in the planes? Put your tables in the upright position, whatever. Anyway. Dear God. Here we go. As we finish, it goes exactly like this. Be sure, be strong, be true. Thank you for listening. From our troubled minds to yours, have a great night. Thanks for making my night. You guys are incredible. I'll see you on Thursday, God willing. Michael Strange out.